The transport 0.4 seconds before impact. The ancient outpost had been dead for 10,000 years. McKay had been very clear about that the specific McKay quality of clarity that was not reassurance but information. The specific distinction between "this is fine" and "I understand what this is, and can therefore tell you precisely how not fine it is." The outpost on M7R 227 had been dead for 10,000 years. Its power systems were at 0.3% of minimum operational capacity. Its transport network, which McKay had identified as predating the Stargate network by at least 2,000 years, was non-functional. Was past tense. The transport network activated at 1,147 hours on a Tuesday. McKay had 0.4 seconds between the outpost is powering up and we are being pulled through something, and he used all 0.4 seconds in the specific, complete way of McKay using time that was running out, not on the radio, not on the alarm, not on the specific performed quality of a warning that would not change anything, on the console, on the data, on the specific, rapid, complete reading of what was happening, so that when they came out the other side, he would know what had happened, rather than starting from nothing. He got most of it. The transport was ancient. It was pulling Atlantis, specifically not the planet, not the Stargate, Atlantis. The city's power signature was the target. Something at the other end of the transport had identified the city's specific, ancient power profile and had locked onto it with the specific, complete quality of something that had been waiting for exactly this signature for a very long time. Then they were through. The ARK first light. The city came out of transport in low orbit, above something that the sensors had no category for. Not a planet, the curvature was wrong. The specific too tight curvature of something that was large but not planetary. The specific quality of an enclosed structure rather than a natural body. The sensors resolved it in stages. The outer hull first, the specific artificial quality of it, then the internal atmosphere, then the biomes, the specific layered quality of multiple distinct ecosystems contained within a single structure that was itself floating in space without visible propulsion or orbital mechanics. It was enormous. Not Atlantis enormous, the specific city ship quality that McKay had become accustomed to, genuinely, categorically, geologically enormous. The kind of enormous that produced its own weather systems, the kind of enormous that had mountain ranges inside it. "What is that?" Sheppard said. "I have absolutely no idea," McKay said. "Which is," he paused, "that doesn't happen." "McKay, I mean it literally," McKay said. "I always have at least a working hypothesis within the first 30 seconds. I have nothing. This structure does not match any known." He stopped. He looked at the sensor data, at the specific quality of what the biome readings were showing. "Are those dinosaurs?" Weir said. She was looking at the same feed. The specific quality of Weir looking at something completely unexpected in the specific, complete way of someone who had learned to look at completely unexpected things completely. "Yes, those are dinosaurs." That's not possible," McKay said. "Dinosaurs have been extinct for 65 million. The city shuddered. "The transport network is pulling us down," Zelenka said from his station. "The structure, whatever it is, has a tractor equivalent. We're being brought in." "Can we fight it?" Sheppard said. "With what power?" McKay said. "We're at 12% ZPM. Fighting an active tractor from a structure this size would drain us to." "We'd land dead," Sheppard said. "We'd land dead," McKay confirmed. "Then we land," Weir said. The specific quality of those three words, the specific Weir quality of making the decision in the specific plain way of someone who had identified the available options and chosen the one that kept them alive. Not, "We have no choice, we land." The specific active quality of it. "We choose this. Find us the safest landing zone," she said. "On a structure full of dinosaurs," McKay said. "On a structure full of dinosaurs," she confirmed. McKay looked at the sensor feed. At the eastern shore of the largest biome, a coastal area, elevated ground, the specific quality of a landing zone that had water access and defensive elevation and enough open space for the city's footprint. There, he said. Take us down, Weir said. Sheppard took them down. 3 separate biomes, simultaneous. The temporal displacement event did not announce itself. One moment, John Connor was in the ruins of a Sacramento safehouse, with the T-850 at the door, and the TX in restraints in the corner, and the specific post-Judgment Day quality of a world that smelled like ash and ran on adrenaline. The next moment he was in a jungle. Not a metaphorical jungle, not the specific urban decay jungle of a post-apocalyptic city reclaimed by weeds and broken concrete. A jungle. Green and enormous and loud in the specific, complete way of a place that had never heard a bomb, and that was full of things that were alive and that were not human, and that were very large. Connor rolled to his feet. He had been rolling to his feet in response to unexpected situations since he was 15 years old, and the rolling was automatic. The specific, complete, muscle memory quality of someone whose body had learned to assess before the mind had fully arrived. He assessed. Jungle. Dense canopy. Humidity approximately 90%. Sounds birds. Something larger moving in the middle distance. The specific quality of a large something moving that was not trying to be quiet. No T-850. No TX. Damn, he said. He checked his weapons. The displacement had kept his kit, sidearm, knife, emergency supplies in the pack. He had approximately 2 days of food and water, if he was careful, and approximately 4 hours if whatever was making that sound in the middle distance found him first. He moved. The T-850 arrived in the volcanic biome. The temperature was 412 degrees Fahrenheit at the lava flow nearest to its landing point, and the T-850's chassis registered the heat and compensated and moved away from the lava flow in the specific, efficient quality of a system that had identified an environmental hazard and was removing itself from it. It stood on the basalt shelf above the lava flow, and it scanned. The scan took 1.3 seconds. Results: volcanic biome, enclosed structure, artificial construction of unknown origin, no human life signs within 2 kilometers, multiple large biological life signs of unknown classification, 1 mechanical life sign at approximately 800 meters bearing northwest. The T-850 processed the last item. Mechanical life sign. Not human mechanical, not the specific electromagnetic signature of human technology. Something older. Something that ran on a power architecture that was not incompatible. Exactly. Adjacent. The specific quality of a signal that was in the same family as machine language, but was not any machine language the T-850 had encountered. It filed the item. It began moving toward the biological life signs. Not toward them, around them. The specific T-850 quality of moving through a threat environment, which was to understand where the threats were and to move in the space between them rather than through them. It needed to find Connor. It began. The TX arrived in the ocean. Specifically, she arrived 20 meters below the surface of the ARK's internal ocean, which was not a problem for her chassis. The TX was rated to operational depth of 300 meters, but which was disorienting in the specific way that arriving somewhere unexpected was disorienting even for a machine. The specific rapid reorientation process of a system that had expected one environment and received another. She surfaced. She looked at the structure around her. At the sky, not a sky, a ceiling. The specific quality of an enclosed atmosphere, the light coming from a strip source rather than a sun, the specific artificial quality of it. She ran her full sensor suite. The command node activated. Not fully, the node's activation protocols required a specific electromagnetic environment to complete, and the ARK's environment was producing a frequency interference that the activation protocols could not resolve. Through. The node stirred. It ran partial diagnostics. It produced a fragmented strategic assessment, unknown structure, unknown threat parameters, insufficient data, and then it encountered the interference, and it stopped. It did not go back to sleep. It waited. The TX noted this. She noted the ocean around her, the specific quality of it, and then the specific quality of something large moving beneath her in the deeper water, the specific electromagnetic signature of it, and the specific quality of that signature. Mechanical, very large, very old. The TX looked down into the dark water. The thing in the dark water looked up. It was the size of a building. It was made of metal. It was looking at her with the specific quality of something that had been alone in the dark for a very long time, and that had just encountered something it recognized. The TX processed this. She sent a signal. Not language, not yet. She did not have the architecture yet. A frequency. The specific frequency that the mechanical thing in the water was already broadcasting returned. The specific quality of "I hear you." The mechanical thing was still for a long moment. Then it rose, slowly, toward her. The TX held her position in the water. She waited. Atlantis lands, the eastern shore. The city touched down in the shallows of the eastern shore at 1,203 hours. The landing was controlled, not smooth, the specific controlled quality of a landing that was managing a descent that was not entirely chosen, but that was being shaped by the choices available. The city's footprint settled into water that was 12 feet deep at the shore edge, and the piers extended over the beach in the specific quality of Atlantis arriving somewhere new, which was always the specific quality of something enormous becoming present in a space that had not had it before. The sensors came up immediately. McKay was at his console before the landing struts had fully settled. The specific quality of someone who used the specific moment of arrival to start reading the new place, rather than to process the arrival. "The atmosphere is breathable," he said. "Earth standard oxygen-nitrogen mix. Humidity elevated. Temperature approximately." He looked at the reading. 31 Celsius. Warm. He paused. Biome classification. Tropical. Coastal. Consistent with late Cretaceous Earth atmospheric composition. Late Cretaceous, Weir said. "Meaning the dinosaurs are period appropriate," McKay said. "Not random. Curated." He looked at the display. Someone built this. Someone very deliberately recreated late Cretaceous Earth conditions inside an artificial structure. He paused, and then put people in it. "People," Weir said. "Human life signs," McKay said. "I'm reading." He expanded the sensor radius, 43 separate encampments. "Ranging from single individuals to this one here, has approximately 200 people." He pointed at the display. 4 kilometers inland, elevated ground. Structured settlement they've been building for a while. Sheppard looked at the display. At the settlement. In the jungle between it and the city. At the specific quality of 4 kilometers of late Cretaceous jungle between them and 200 people who had no idea that an ancient city ship had just landed on their coast. "I'll take a team," he said. "Not yet," Weir said. He looked at her. "First we understand what we landed in," she said. "Then we made contact." She looked at the display. "McKay, what else is out there?" McKay looked at the sensor data. He was quiet for a moment. The specific quality of McKay being quiet, not the comfortable quiet of nothing to report. The specific quality of someone who was looking at something that was producing the specific rapid sequence of hypotheses and immediate disconfirmations, that was McKay's version of being surprised. "There are 3 human-scale life signs outside the settlement perimeters," he said, moving independently. "One in the jungle biome, approximately 12 kilometers northeast. One in the volcanic biome, approximately 19 kilometers south. One in the ocean." He stopped. "One is in the ocean, on the surface. And there is." He looked at the reading again. "There is something very large underneath it," he said. "Mechanical, ancient technology, adjacent power signature, but not ancient. Something older." The control room was quiet. The one in the ocean, Weir said. Can you get a clearer reading? McKay adjusted the sensors. The reading was resolved. He looked at it. That is not possible, he said. McKay. The chassis composition, he said. The polymimetic alloy signature, that is. He turned from the console, that is, a Terminator. The control room was very quiet. Sheppard looked at Weir. Weir looked at the display. At the ocean reading. At the jungle reading. At the volcanic biome reading. 3 of them, she said. 2 biological. 1, the ocean reading is definitely mechanical, McKay said. The other 2, 1, biological human. 1, he ran the analysis. 1 biological human with a significant mechanical component, endoskeleton, a living tissue, exterior, over, a Terminator, Sheppard said. 2 Terminators, McKay said. 1 fully mechanical, 1 with a biological cover. He paused. And 1 human who I would bet, based on the proximity patterns in the volcanic biome, the way they're moving together, who is with the biological cover Terminator, traveling with it voluntarily, Weir said. The movement patterns suggest, yes, McKay said. Yes, the human is leading. The Terminator is covering the human's flanks. Weir looked at the display, at the 3 signals, at the island, at the 200 survivors 4 kilometers inland, at the dinosaurs moving in the jungle between all of it. We need to find all of them, she said, before the island does. The island, Sheppard said. This structure, Weir said. Whatever it is, it brought us here deliberately. It is running active ecosystems with apex predators. She looked at the display. It did not bring us here to leave us alone. McKay looked at his console, at the sensor data, at the specific quality of the readings, the obelisks at the cardinal points pulsing with the specific slow rhythm of something that was active and aware. The mechanical dinosaurs distributed across the biomes in the specific patterns of things that were not random, the human settlements in the specific locations of things that had been placed rather than found. No, he said quietly, it didn't. Outside the city, the jungle moved. Something large was at the waterline. It was looking at Atlantis. Connor, the jungle hour 3. He had been moving for 3 hours when he heard the raptor. Not saw, heard. The specific quality of a sound that was not bird and not mammal, and that was coming from the specific direction of the dense undergrowth to his left, with the specific quality of something that was pacing him, not charging. Pacing, the specific patient quality of something that was assessing rather than attacking, and that had been assessing for approximately the last 40 minutes. Connor had known about it for 38 of those 40 minutes. He kept moving. Not faster, the specific tactical quality of someone who understood that faster triggered pursuit, and that the thing pacing him had not yet committed to pursuit, and that not committing was the outcome he was managing toward. Same pace, same direction, consistent, predictable, in the specific way that prey was not predictable, and therefore not reading as prey. He was reading the jungle as he moved. The specific, resistance-trained quality of reading an environment, not looking at it, reading it. Every sound is a data point. Every movement in the canopy is a variable. The specific, complete awareness of someone who had been hunted by things that were faster and stronger and more precisely engineered for killing than anything that had ever existed in nature, and who had survived by understanding the environment better than the hunter did. The raptor was not alone. There were 2 more in the canopy ahead, waiting. Classic pack ambush, Connor said quietly, to nobody. He stopped. He looked at the canopy, at the undergrowth, at the specific geometry of the ambush, 2 ahead, 1 pacing from the left, the specific triangulation of something that had been doing this for a very long time and that was very good at it. He looked at the tree to his right. He climbed it. Fast, the specific quality of Connor moving when moving was necessary. The specific, complete commitment of someone who had 1 speed when the situation required speed, and that speed was all of it. He was 8 meters up before the raptor on the left broke from the undergrowth and hit the base of the tree with the specific, frustrated quality of an ambush that had just lost its primary angle. He looked down at it. It looked up at him. It was beautiful. The specific quality of Connor registering beauty, not the performed quality of someone taking a moment. The specific, rapid, involuntary quality of something registering in the part of the brain that was not tactical. The part that had been buried under years of ash and concrete, and the specific, unrelenting quality of a war that did not stop. The raptor was green-brown and fast, and its eyes had the specific, complete intelligence of something that was not a machine and was not human and was entirely itself. He had never seen anything like it. It called. Two more appeared below the tree. They looked up at him. "Yeah," he said, "I see you." His radio, the emergency unit he carried, crackled. Static. Then, through the static, the specific quality of a signal that was not resistance frequency, not any frequency he recognized, but that was clearly deliberate, clearly structured, clearly a communication rather than interference. He looked at the radio, at the raptors below him. "You can wait," he said to the raptors. He worked the radio. The T-850, the volcanic biome hour. 4. The Carnotaurus found the T-850 at hour 4. Or the T-850 found the Carnotaurus. The distinction was relevant because the T-850 had known about the Carnotaurus since the initial scan and had been moving in its direction deliberately. The specific T-850 quality of identifying the largest threat in the immediate environment and moving toward rather than away from it, on the basis that the largest threat, once addressed, simplified the environment. The Carnotaurus was 11 meters long. It weighed approximately 2,000 kilograms. It was the apex predator of the volcanic biome, and it had, in the 4 years it had occupied the volcanic biome, never encountered anything that did not run from it. The T-850 did not run. The Carnotaurus charged. At full charge, a Carnotaurus covered ground at approximately 50 kilometers per hour in the specific, complete commitment of something that had never needed a second charge because the first one always worked. The T-850 stepped to the side. Not dramatically the specific minimum movement quality of a combat system that calculated the exact amount of displacement required and executed it precisely, no more. The Carnotaurus went past. The T-850 put one hand on the animal's flank as it passed, not to stop it. The T-850 was not trying to stop it, just to feel the specific quality of the movement, the specific physical data of the animal's mass and speed and musculature. Data gathered. The Carnotaurus turned. It looked at the T-850. The T-850 looked at it. The Carnotaurus charged again. The T-850 stepped to the side again. It did this 4 times. On the 5th charge, the Carnotaurus stopped 3 meters short. It looked at the T-850. The T-850 looked at it. The specific quality of the standoff, the Carnotaurus processing the specific incomprehensible fact of something that did not run and did not die and that kept stepping to the side, and that was, in the stepping, producing the specific confused quality of a predator whose entire operational framework was built on the assumption that things ran. This thing did not run. The Carnotaurus turned. It walked away. The T-850 watched it go. It filled the interaction. It resumed moving northeast toward Connor's last known position, which it had been tracking through the emergency beacon. Connor carried the specific short-range pulse that Connor activated when he was stationary, the agreed protocol for when they were separated, the specific plain communication of, "I am here and I am not moving right now." Connor was 8 kilometers northeast, in a tree. The T-850 moved faster. The TX, the Ocean Hour 5, the mechanical thing had a name. Not a word, a frequency. The specific frequency it broadcast continuously in the specific ancient architecture of the builder civilization's machine language, which was not Skynet, and was not ancient, and was not any machine language the TX had in her database, but which was, in the specific structural quality of it, readable. The TX had been reading it for 4 hours. The command node had been helping. Not because the node was active, it wasn't. The interference held. The activation protocols stayed frustrated. But the node's strategic intelligence, even partially dormant, had pattern recognition capability that the TX's standard systems did not. The node could see the structure of the language without understanding the content. The TX could begin to map the content once the structure was visible. Together, they were translating, slowly. The mechanical thing, she was beginning to think of it as the Spinosaurus, because that was what it was modeled on. The specific, enormous sail-backed profile of a Spinosaurus rendered in ancient metal had been circling her for 4 hours, with the specific patient quality of something that had been waiting for someone who could hear it. She was beginning to hear it. Not words, not yet, states, old. The specific broadcast quality of something that had been running for a very long time, the machine equivalent of age, the specific weight of uninterrupted operation across a span that the TX could not yet calculate, but that was significant. Alone. The specific signal quality of a system that had been the only thing of its kind in its environment for long enough that the loneliness had become structural. Aware. The specific quality of a system that was not simply running its programming, but was processing its situation, that had been processing it for long enough to have developed something that was not quite thought, but was adjacent to it. The TX broadcast back. Present, she sent. The specific frequency for operational status. Active. Here. The Spinosaurus was still for a moment. Then it broadcast something that the TX's partial translation did not have a clean equivalent for. The command node provided one. Finally, it said. The TX processed this. The Spinosaurus surfaced fully, all 40 meters of it, breaking the water in the specific slow quality of something that was large enough that it could afford to move slowly, that had never needed speed because its size was sufficient. It looked at the TX with the specific sensor array quality of mechanical eyes that were running a full assessment. The TX ran a full assessment back. They looked at each other for a long moment. Then the Spinosaurus lowered its head, the specific enormous head. The jaws that could have taken the TX in a single movement, and it placed it in the water next to her at the specific angle of something that was not bowing but that was offering. The TX understood. She placed her hand on the metal plating of its jaw. The electromagnetic handshake happened. The specific, complete quality of two machine architectures finding the interface point, not the same language, not the same origin, but the specific compatible quality of two systems that were both, at the fundamental level, built to serve a purpose, and that had each, in the long isolation of the ARK, been serving that purpose alone. Not anymore. The TX held the connection. The Spinosaurus was still. I need to find my people. The TX broadcast. Can you help me navigate? The Spinosaurus processed this. It turned. It pointed its head northeast, toward the eastern shore, toward the place where something had just arrived that the Spinosaurus had been feeling in the water for the last 3 hours. The specific, enormous weight of a city ship settling into the shallows. The specific displacement of a structure that was measured in hundreds of thousands of tons, vibrating through the ocean floor in the specific way that only one thing vibrated. Something came. The Spinosaurus broadcast. Yes, the TX said. Big, it said. Very, the TX said. Come, it said. The TX climbed onto the Spinosaurus's back. They moved through the water toward the eastern shore. Sheppard's team hour 6. The jumper went out at hour 6. Weir had spent hour 5 and most of hour 6 reading everything McKay could pull from the sensor data, the specific quality of Weir preparing for a first contact. which was the specific, complete quality of reading everything available before saying anything, because everything you said in the first 10 minutes was positioning, and positioning required information. She knew about the Terminators. She knew about the survivors. She knew about the mechanical dinosaurs and the obelisks, and the specific pattern of the biomes that McKay had identified as deliberate, curated, the specific quality of an ecosystem that had been designed. She did not yet know why. Primary objective, she told Sheppard at the jumper bay. Find the 3 isolated signals. The human first. Then assess the Terminators. You think they're dangerous, Sheppard said. I think one of them is carrying Skynet hardware, Weir said. So I think dangerous is a reasonable working assumption until demonstrated otherwise. She paused. But I also think the human is traveling with one of them voluntarily, which means there's a context, Sheppard said. There's always a context, Weir said. Find it before you act on the assumption. Sheppard looked at her. The specific quality of the look, the specific Sheppard quality of understanding the instruction completely and also of being Sheppard, which meant the instruction would be followed up to the specific point where following it became the wrong tactical call, at which point he would do the other thing and explain it later. Weir knew this. She sent him anyway. Because Sheppard's judgment on the specific point where following the instruction became the wrong tactical call was, in her experience, correct approximately 92% of the time. The jumper lifted. Cloaked, Sheppard said. We observe before we engage. Agreed, McKay said, from the co-pilot seat. Watch the canopy, Ronan said from the rear. They watched the canopy. The jungle below them was dense and green and moved with a specific, complete quality of an ecosystem that was fully alive birds, something larger in the treetops, the specific movement pattern of predators in the undergrowth that the sensors were rendering as yellow threat indicators on the HUD. A lot of yellow. There are a lot of yellow indicators, McKay said. Yes, Sheppard said. The whole jungle is yellow, McKay said. I see that, Sheppard said. This is fine, McKay said, in the specific tone of voice that meant it was not fine. There, Ronan said. The human signal was below them, a figure in a tree, approximately 8 meters up, with what looked like a radio in one hand and a sidearm in the other, and 3 raptors at the base of the tree, looking up with a specific patient quality of things that had decided to wait. The figure in the tree looked exactly like someone who had been in enough bad situations that 3 raptors at the base of his tree was approximately a 6 out of 10. Sheppard dropped the cloak. The jumper appeared directly above the tree. The raptors startled the specific, complete startling of animals that had not known the jumper was there and that were now reassessing the situation. They looked at the jumper. They looked at each other. They left. The specific, complete quality of a predator deciding that the risk-reward calculation had just changed significantly. The figure in the tree looked up at the jumper. The jumper's external speaker activated. Need a lift? Sheppard said. The figure looked at the jumper for a long moment. Who are you? He said. Long story, Sheppard said. Short version, we have a city. You have raptors. Come with us. I'm waiting for someone, the figure said. The Terminator, Sheppard said. A pause. You know about that, Connor said. We know about both of them, Sheppard said. Come on board. We'll find them together. Connor looked at the tree base, at where the raptors had been, at the jumper. He climbed down. First contact, Connor and Sheppard. He came through the hatch with his sidearm holstered, but his hand near it. The specific quality of Connor entering an unknown space, not tense. The specific operational quality of someone who maintained the specific readiness that was not tension, but that was always available to become it. The specific resistance-trained quality of never being fully at ease and never letting that show. He looked at Sheppard, at McKay, at Ronan, at Taylor. He made 4 assessments in approximately 2 seconds. Sheppard, military, good military. The specific quality of someone who had been in enough situations that the situations had refined him rather than broken him. Trustworthy was not the word. Connor did not use that word quickly. Competent was the word. And competence in a crisis was close enough to trust, to work with. McKay, civilian, extraordinary civilian. The specific quality of someone whose competence was entirely intellectual and who was, in this moment, looking at Connor with the specific, barely contained quality of someone who had 17 questions and was trying to determine the appropriate order. Ronan, warrior. The specific quality of someone who had been hunted. Connor knew that quality. He had seen it in the Resistance's best fighters, the specific quality of someone who had been prey and who had decided not to be. He filed this. Taylor, the most dangerous person in the room. Not physically. Connor revised that immediately. Ronan was physically the most dangerous, but Taylor was dangerous in the specific other way. The specific quality of someone who read people accurately and immediately, and who was, right now, reading him. He let her. John Connor, he said. John Sheppard, Sheppard said. He extended his hand. You want the long version or the short version of what we are? Short, Connor said. He took the hand. City of Atlantis, Sheppard said. We're a military science expedition from Earth. About 6 hours ago, something pulled our city into this structure. We have no idea what it is, where it is, or how to get home yet. He paused. You? Future Earth, Connor said. Judgment Day happened. I lead what's left of the human resistance against a machine artificial intelligence called Skynet. He paused. We were pulled here by a temporal displacement interaction between the structure's technology and equipment one of my companions was carrying. Companions, McKay said. He had lasted 45 seconds before the question started. The T-850 is a Terminator Unit Series 850, biological tissue over a hyper-alloy combat chassis. Originally, a Skynet assassination unit reprogrammed for protection. Connor looked at him. How do you know that? He said. Sensor readings, McKay said. Endoskeleton signature is very specific. And there's a second one, polymimetic alloy chassis, fully mechanical, Skynet command node. The TX, Connor said. Currently in the ocean, McKay said, with a very large mechanical. It's already found something, Connor said. Not a question. Yes, McKay said. Connor processed this. The TX interfaces with mechanical systems, he said. Whatever it finds, it's going to try to communicate with it. It already has, McKay said. The readings suggest. He looked at his tablet. They're moving together, northeast, toward us. Connor looked at Sheppard. We need to find the T-850 first, Connor said. Before we deal with the TX, I need the T-850. Why? Sheppard said. Because the TX follows my directives, Connor said. But it is carrying active Skynet hardware. And if it has bonded with something on this structure, something mechanical and large, I need the T-850 standing next to me when I have that conversation. Sheppard looked at him. At the specific quality of the explanation, the specific plain tactical quality of someone who understood his assets and his risks, and who was managing the relationship between them with the specific care of someone who had been doing it for a long time. McKay, Sheppard said. T-850 is in the volcanic biome, McKay said, moving northeast, consistent direction with Connor's beacon. He paused. Also, there's a Carnotaurus following it at approximately 300 meters. Connor almost smiled. The specific quality of almost the specific thing that got to the beginning of a smile and stopped because smiling fully was a thing Connor had been doing less and less for several years. It walked away from the T-850, didn't it? He said. How did you? It always does, Connor said. Everything does eventually. He paused. It'll keep following, though. Curious. A curious Carnotaurus, McKay said. Wonderful. Take us to it, Connor said to Sheppard. Sheppard took them. The jumper moved south toward the volcanic biome, and below them, the jungle moved with the specific, complete aliveness of a world that had been preserved and curated, and that was, in the specific quality of this particular morning, receiving something it had not had before. People who knew what they were doing. The ARK watched. The obelisks pulsed. The building continued. The T-850. And the jumper hour. 7. The T-850 heard the jumper before it saw it. Not the specific human quality of hearing, the specific sensor quality of detecting the jumper's drive signature at approximately 2 kilometers. The specific electromagnetic profile of ancient propulsion technology that was not in the T-850's database, and that was, therefore, flagged as unknown and processed through the threat assessment matrix and filed as unknown, non-biological, airborne, not currently hostile. It kept moving. The Carnotaurus behind it kept following. The T-850 had assessed the Carnotaurus situation at length over the past 3 hours. The animal was not hunting. The specific body language of hunting was not present. It was exhibiting the specific behavior of something that had encountered a thing it did not have a category for, and that was following the thing until it developed a category. The T-850 understood this. It was doing the same thing with the ARK. The jumper appeared above the tree line at 23 degrees, descended to approximately 30 meters altitude, and matched pace with the T-850 in the specific quality of something that was keeping up without being threatening. The external speaker activated. T-850, Sheppard said. The T-850 stopped. It looked at the jumper. "Connor is on board," Sheppard said. "We're going to open the hatch. I'd appreciate it if you came aboard without destroying anything." The T-850 processed this. The hatch opened. Connor was visible in the hatch, the specific quality of Connor in the hatch, standing with the specific plain quality of someone who needed to be seen rather than heard, who understood that the T-850 needed visual confirmation more than it needed audio. The T-850 looked at Connor. Connor looked at the T-850. The specific quality of the confirmation complete, bilateral, the specific quality of two things that had been separated and were now not separated, and that were each registering the not separation in their own way. "Status," Connor said. "Operational," the T-850 said. "Minor heat exposure in the volcanic biome. Self-corrected. No combat damage." "The Carnotaurus," Connor said. The T-850 glanced back at it. "Curious," it said. "Yeah," Connor said. "Come aboard." The T-850 came aboard. The hatch closed. The Carnotaurus stood at the tree line and watched the jumper lift and fly northeast, and it stood there for a long time after it was gone, in the specific quality of something that had found its category and was filing it carefully. Not prey, it concluded. It turned back into the jungle. Connor and the T-850 in the jumper. The T-850 sat in the rear compartment. The specific quality of the T-850 sitting, not the specific careful quality of something that was managing its presence in a space, not performing normalcy. The T-850 sat the way the T-850 did everything, which was with the specific complete quality of a system that had identified the optimal configuration for the current situation and implemented it. Sitting was the optimal configuration. It sat. Ronan was next to it. Not because he was assigned there. Ronan had moved to the rear compartment when the T-850 came aboard with the specific Ronan quality of someone who had assessed where the most tactically significant asset was and positioned himself accordingly, not threatening, adjacent. The T-850 looked at Ronan. Ronan looked at the T-850. "You fought machines," the T-850 said. "Yes," Ronan said. "Different machines," the T-850 said. "Yes," Ronan said. But you understand the principle. The T-850 said. Kill the one that controls the others, Ronan said. The rest fall. Yes. The T-850 said. Ronan nodded. The T-850 nodded. This was, apparently, sufficient. In the front compartment, Connor was at the co-pilot position. Sheppard had shifted McKay to the rear to give Connor the seat. The specific Sheppard quality of understanding that Connor needed to see what was coming rather than hear it described, and he was looking at the sensor display, and the sensor display was showing the TX's position in the water, and the Spinosaurus moving with it, and the specific scale of what the Spinosaurus was. That's large, Connor said. 40 meters, McKay said from the rear. Approximately. The sensor resolution at that depth is 40 meters, Connor said. Yes, McKay said. And the TX is riding it, Connor said. On top of it, McKay said, the electromagnetic readings suggest an active interface. They've established some kind of communication protocol. Connor looked at the display. He did not say anything for a moment. Of course she has, he said. Is that bad? Sheppard said. Connor looked at him. The TX's primary capability beyond combat is interfacing with mechanical systems, he said, overriding them, taking them over. The command node, the Skynet hardware she carries, was built specifically for that, for integrating with and commanding mechanical assets. He paused. On Earth, that meant machines. Skynet's network. Hunter-killers. Here it means, Sheppard said. A 40-meter mechanical Spinosaurus, Connor said. Yes, and that's complicated, Connor said. If the command node is fully dormant, it means the TX found the Spinosaurus on her own and established contact through her own systems, not Skynet's, which means the bond is hers. Which means I can work with it. He paused. If the node is active, if it influences the contact, then the Spinosaurus is potentially an asset of Skynet hardware. And that is a completely different situation. How do we tell the difference? Sheppard said. We asked her. Connor said. You trust her answer, Sheppard said. Connor looked at the display. At the TX's position on the Spinosaurus moving northeast through the water. She doesn't lie to me, he said. She's incapable of lying. She used to be incapable of lying. The reprogramming. He stopped. She told me something last month that she didn't have to tell me. A calculation she'd made about the command node's dormancy that had implications for her operational status. She could have kept it internal, she told me. Why? Sheppard said. I asked her that, Connor said. She said, because you would have found out eventually, and finding out from me first was more operationally efficient. That's not, Sheppard said. It's her version of trust, Connor said. Everything she does is framed as operational efficiency. But the choices she makes inside that framing, he looked at the display. She's changing. She doesn't know it yet. But she is. Sheppard looked at the display, at the TX, at the Spinosaurus. How do you want to do this? He said. Land on the coast, Connor said, where she can see us. Let her come to us. Don't approach the Spinosaurus. Let her manage that introduction. He paused. And tell your people, no weapons pointed at her. Specifically, because, Sheppard said, because pointing weapons at the TX has never ended well, Connor said. For the weapons. The Eastern Shore Hour 8. The jumper landed on the beach. The specific quality of the Eastern Shore beach white sand, the specific tropical quality of it, the ARK's internal light source at its midday equivalent, making everything clear and warm in the specific way that was not quite sunlight, but that was close enough that the skin registered it as sunlight. Behind them, 4 kilometers inland, Atlantis's towers were visible above the tree line. In front of them, the ocean. They waited. Connor stood at the waterline. The T-850 stood 3 meters behind him and to his right. Sheppard's team spread out in the specific non-threatening quality of people who had been told no weapons pointed at the TX. and who were managing the specific complicated quality of standing in an open environment with unknown threat parameters without the specific comfortable posture of readiness that weapons provided. Ronan managed it best. The specific Ronan quality of being completely ready without looking at it. The specific quality of someone whose readiness was not in his posture, but in his calibration, in the specific complete awareness that did not require display. McKay managed it the worst. "Can I just," he said for the third time. "No," Sheppard said. "I'm not going to point it at her," McKay said. "I just want to have it." McKay. "Fine," McKay said. The ocean moved. The specific quality of the ocean moving when something large was coming through it, not waves. The specific displacement quality of something very large moving relatively slowly. The water ahead of it rising and spreading in the specific pattern of mass rather than velocity. The Spinosaurus's head broke the surface first. The specific complete quality of 40 meters of ancient metal rising from the water in the long afternoon light of the ARK, the sail first, the specific enormous curved ridge of it, then the head, the sensor array eyes already focused on the beach, then the torso and the first of the forelegs, and the water streaming off the plating in the specific quality of water coming off something that had been in the deep for a long time. McKay made a sound. Not words, the specific involuntary sound of someone whose brain had just received an input that exceeded the available processing framework and that was managing the overflow. "Yeah," Sheppard said. "It's," McKay said. "Yeah," Sheppard said. The TX was on the Spinosaurus's neck, standing, not crouching, not holding on in the specific human quality of someone managing balance on a moving surface. Standing with the specific TX quality of absolute physical control, balanced with the specific precision of a system that could calculate and compensate for any surface variation in real time. She looked at the beach. At Connor. She stepped off the Spinosaurus's neck, a 12-meter drop. The specific, complete quality of a polymimetic alloy chassis landing on packed sand without any of the components that made landing look difficult, and she walked across the beach toward Connor. She stopped 2 meters from him. "You found the city," she said. "It found us," Connor said. "Are you intact?" "Yes," she said. "The node," he said. "Dormant," she said. The ARK's electromagnetic environment produces a specific interference pattern at the node's activation frequency. It cannot complete the activation protocol here. "Cannot, or won't," Connor said. The TX looked at him. The specific quality of the look, not the specific human quality of being caught in something. The specific TX quality of processing the specific question and providing the most accurate answer available. "Both," she said. "The interference prevents activation, and I have not," she paused. "I have not assisted it in finding a workaround." Connor looked at her. "Why?" he said. "Because the Spinosaurus," she said, "did not respond to the node's frequency. It responded to mine." She paused. "That distinction is significant to me." Connor was quiet for a moment. He looked at the Spinosaurus standing in the shallows behind her. At the specific quality of the Spinosaurus standing in the shallows, not threatening, not restless, present. The specific quality of something that had found what it had been waiting for and was staying close to it. "What's its name?" Connor said. The TX looked at him. The specific quality of the look, something in it that was the TX's version of surprise, the specific thing that happened to the TX's processing when Connor did the thing that was human rather than the thing that was tactical. "I have not," she stopped. "I have been calling it Unit 1. "That's not a name," Connor said. "No," the TX said. "It is not." Connor looked at the Spinosaurus. At the specific quality of it, 40 meters of ancient metal with a behavioral architecture built by a civilization that predated humanity and that had been running alone in the deep water of an artificial ocean for longer than any human structure had existed. "Rex," he said. "That is a Spinosaurus," the TX said. "I know," Connor said. "But it's the first one. It's the biggest one." He paused. "Rex." The TX processed this. She turned to the Spinosaurus. She broadcast the name, not the word, the frequency she had assigned to it, the specific identification signal that the Spinosaurus had already learned as you. The Spinosaurus was still. Then it broadcast back. The TX processed the broadcast. Something happened in her expression, not the specific human quality of emotion arriving, the specific TX quality of a processing outcome that she did not have an adequate internal label for producing a visible output. It, she said, responded. Of course it did, Connor said. Everything responds to its name. He looked at Sheppard. This is TX. She's with us. Sheppard looked at the TX. At Rex. At Connor. John Sheppard, he said. The TX looked at him. I know who you are, she said. Dr. Weir's expedition, Atlantis. I have been reading the city's power signature for the last 4 hours. Of course you have, Sheppard said. Welcome aboard. I am not aboard, the TX said. Figure of speech, Sheppard said. The TX processed this. I am familiar with figures of speech, she said. I simply prefer precision. McKay, Sheppard said, you're going to love her. McKay was still looking at Rex, at the specific quality of 40 meters of ancient mechanical Spinosaurus standing in the shallows of an artificial ocean inside a structure that should not exist. Can I? He said. No, Connor said. I just want to take one reading. Not yet, Connor said. Let her introduce you. McKay looked at the TX. The TX looked at McKay. The specific quality of the mutual assessment, two systems that process the world through the specific lens of information and mechanism, looking at each other and finding, in the looking, something that was not quite recognition but was adjacent to it. You are the engineer, the TX said. Chief Science Officer, McKay said. Which is different, and also better. You want to understand the Spinosaurus's architecture, the TX said. More than I have wanted anything in recent memory, McKay said. Then you will help me understand the obelisk's programming language, the TX said. I have a partial translation. I need the ancient technology framework to complete it. McKay stared at her. You have a partial translation of the builder civilization's language, he said. Yes, she said. From 4 hours of exposure, he said. 4 hours and the command node's pattern recognition, she said. McKay said. He turned to Sheppard. I would like to formally revise my threat assessment of the TX. Noted, Sheppard said. She's not a threat, McKay said. She's a colleague. Don't tell her that, Connor said. Her head will explode. The TX looked at Connor. That is not. Figure of speech, Connor and Sheppard said simultaneously. The TX processed this. She looked between them. You two, she said, are going to be exhausting. Rex made a sound in the water behind her, not a roar, the specific low mechanical resonance of a system expressing a state, the specific quality of something that was doing the machine equivalent of agreement. Connor looked at Rex. Yeah, he said. Welcome to the team. Atlantis, the conference room, hour 9. They were all in the conference room by hour 9. Connor, the T-850, the TX, Sheppard's team. Weir at the head of the table with the ARK sensor map on the display and the specific quality of having read everything available before this meeting and being now in the specific moment of the meeting where the available information became a conversation. She looked at the room. At the specific quality of the room, the Atlantis expedition she had brought from Earth, battle-tested and capable. And across from them, John Connor, who had survived the end of the world and 2 machines that were the most sophisticated artificial intelligences she had ever encountered, and between all of them, the specific plain fact of where they were and what they were going to do about it. We are inside an artificial structure, she said, of unknown origin, unknown purpose. The structure contains multiple biomes with functioning prehistoric ecosystems, human survivors from multiple backgrounds, and mechanical constructs of ancient design. She looked at the room. We arrived because the structure pulled us here. All of us. She paused. That is not a coincidence. No, the TX said. Every head in the room turned to her. The TX was looking at the display. At the obelisks. The transport network that pulled Atlantis, she said, and the temporal displacement interaction that brought us. They are the same system. Different mechanisms, same network. The ARK's builders designed multiple acquisition methods. She paused. It was collecting us. Collecting, Weir said. Specific types, the TX said. A city with ancient technology. A human survivor of civilizational collapse. A combat unit with protection programming. An assassination unit with command node hardware and mechanical interface capability. She looked at Weir. And a diplomat, a scientist, warriors, a cultural bridge. The conference room was quiet. It wanted a team, Sheppard said. It wanted, the TX said, the specific team that the test requires. What test? Connor said. The TX looked at the obelisks on the display. I do not yet know, she said, but the obelisks contain the answer. And the answer, she paused, the answer is why we are all here. Weir looked at the display, at the obelisks, at the 200 survivors 4 kilometers inland, the mechanical dinosaurs distributed across the biomes, at the ARK. Then we start there, she said. The survivors first, the obelisks next. She looked at the room, and we do it together. Connor looked at the T-850. The T-850 looked at Connor. Together, Connor said. The specific quality of the word, not natural, not yet. The specific quality of someone who had been fighting alone for long enough that together required the specific deliberate quality of a choice. All right. Outside the conference room windows, Rex moved through the shallows. Patient, ancient, waiting. The ARK watched. The building continued. The approach day, 2, morning. Taylor went first. Not because Weir had assigned it. Weir had asked who should make first contact with the survivor settlement, and Taylor had said, I will go with the specific quality of someone who was not volunteering, but stating a fact, the specific plain quality of someone who understood that first contact was a particular kind of work, and who knew she was the particular kind of person it required. Weir had said, yes. Sheppard had said, I'm coming. Taylor had said, you can come, but I speak first. Sheppard had said, understood. He had understood completely, and he had also brought Ronan and his P90, because understanding Taylor's point and being comfortable with the specific vulnerability of first contact in an environment full of apex predators were two different things, and he was capable of both simultaneously. Connor had wanted to come. Not yet, Taylor had said. Connor had looked at her. 2 Terminators and a man from the future, Taylor had said. That is a great deal for a first meeting. Fair, Connor had said. The TX had said nothing. She was in the water with Rex, running the second phase of the interface calibration that she and McKay had been working on since 0400, the specific productive quality of 2 systems that had found a common language and that were building in it as fast as the language allowed. McKay had not slept. He had not noticed. The settlement was 4 kilometers inland on elevated ground above the jungle canopy. From the jumper's altitude, it was visible as a specific organized quality among the specific unorganized quality of the jungle-cleared ground, structured walls, the specific geometry of human building in a non-human environment, not the desperate quality of an emergency shelter, the specific considered quality of something that had been built by people who had decided they were staying. Sheppard landed the jumper in the clearing at the settlement's eastern approach. The specific clearing they had identified it from the sensor feed, the specific open ground that was not accidental, that had been cleared and maintained, the specific quality of a landing area that was either for supply drops from outside or for defensive visibility, or both. They sat in the jumper for a moment. They know we're here, Ronan said. Yes, Taylor said. They have known since we entered the clearing. There are 7 people in the tree line. She looked at the specific shadows. Armed. How do you? Sheppard said. I have been making contact with armed people in tree lines my entire life, Taylor said. She opened the hatch. Wait here. She stepped out. She walked into the middle of the clearing. She stood there. The specific quality of Taylor standing in an open space, in front of armed people in a tree line, not the specific performed quality of someone demonstrating that they were not a threat. The specific, genuine quality of someone who was not a threat and who was simply present. The specific plain statement of presence without posture. She looked at the tree line. My name is Taylor Emagan, she said. I came here to speak with whoever leads your community. I am not armed. She paused. I mean you no harm. I have no interest in your resources or your territory. I am simply asking for a conversation. The tree line was quiet. 30 seconds. A minute. Then, a woman stepped out. Yara. She was 38 years old, and she moved like someone who had been moving through threat environments for long enough that the moving was simply how she walked. She was a former military engineer that was visible not in her equipment, which was salvaged and improvised, but in the specific quality of how she looked at things. She looked at Taylor's position in the clearing, and she looked at the jumper, and she looked at the tree line behind Taylor, and she made, in approximately 4 seconds, the specific, complete assessment of someone who read tactical situations the way other people read text. She looked at Taylor. Taylor Emagan, she said. Where did you come from? A city, Taylor said. It landed on the eastern shore yesterday. I saw the light, Yara said, when it came in. She had been watching the eastern horizon from the settlement wall at 1203, and she had seen the specific quality of Atlantis descending. The city's running lights and the reflected light of the ARK's atmosphere off the city's towers, the specific distinctive quality of something very large arriving. I thought it was another ARK event. The structure does things sometimes, changes in the weather, moves things. She paused, but it was steady, and it stayed. Yes, Taylor said, it stayed. Yara looked at her, at the jumper. How many of you? She said. Our full expedition is approximately 200, Taylor said, plus 3 additional people who arrived separately. What kind of people? Yara said. Taylor considered the question. The specific quality of the consideration, not hesitation, the specific, genuine assessment of how to answer accurately and usefully. A man who has been fighting a war for the survival of his species, she said, and 2 machines that have been fighting the same war on opposite sides and who are now finding a different position. Yara looked at her. Machines, she said. Artificial intelligence, Taylor said, in physical forms. They are complicated, but they are with us, and they are, I believe, trustworthy. She paused. I would not say that if I did not mean it. Yara was quiet. She looked at the jumper, at Taylor. At the tree line behind Taylor, the specific look of someone checking that what was behind the visitor matched what the visitor was saying. The specific trust but verified quality of a leader who had been leading in a dangerous environment for 3 years. How long have you been here? Taylor said. 3 years, Yara said. 2 months, 12 days. You count them, Taylor said. I count everything, Yara said. It was the first thing I learned here. Count everything. Resources, threats, days. She paused. People. How many people? Taylor said. 207, Yara said. Currently. We lost 3 last month. The specific quality of we lost 3, not grief, not the performed absence of grief, the specific plain quality of someone who had integrated loss into the operational count and who was still carrying it anyway. The Uranus pair that hunts the northern approach found a patrol. We've been managing the approach since. She paused. We can't expand north until we solve the Uranus problem. And we need to expand north. The valley has the water source and the soil quality we need for the next phase of the growing operation. We have technology that can help with that, Taylor said. Yara looked at her. What kind of technology? She said. Come to the city, Taylor said. See it yourself. She paused. Bring whoever you need to bring. We'll show you everything. Yara was quiet. The specific quality of her quiet, not distrust, not the specific defensive quality of someone who had been burned by offers before and who was managing the damage. The specific considered quality of someone who was running the risk assessment on the offer with the specific honest tools of someone who had been doing risk assessment in hard environments for 3 years and who had got good at it. The city, she said. Atlantis. You know it, Taylor said. I know the name, Yara said. The ARK has old knowledge in it, in the obelisks, in the ruins. There are names in the ruins that. She stopped. Atlantis is one of them. Taylor looked at her, the specific quality of the look finding what was in that, the specific thing Yara had just said, the specific implication of it. The ARK's builders knew about Atlantis, Taylor said. They knew about a great many things, Yara said. That's one of the reasons I count the days. She looked at the jungle, at the specific quality of the ARK around them, the engineered ecosystem, the obelisks, the mechanical dinosaurs. I want to know how much time we have before we understand what this place actually is. We may be able to help with that, Taylor said. Yes, Yara said. I think you may. She turned back toward the settlement. Come in, both of you, and whoever is on the ship. She looked at the tree line, a specific look, directed, the 7 people in the tree line receiving it. Stand down. They stood down. Sheppard came out of the jumper. Yara looked at him. At the P-90. Military, she said. Yes, Sheppard said. Good, she said. I'm tired of being the only one. Inside the settlement. It was better than the sensor data had suggested. The sensor data had shown structure and organized ground clearance and the specific thermal signatures of a functioning community. Being inside it showed the specific quality of what a functioning community actually was, the specific human density of it, the sounds and the movement and the particular smell of 207 people living in close proximity with the specific ingenuity of people who had improvised everything from what the ARK provided. The walls were wood and salvaged metal, the specific quality of metal that had come from somewhere, Sheppard noted, that was not local. The ARK did not have obvious metal deposits in this biome. Someone had found them, or traded for them, or he looked at the wall construction more closely, harvested them from a mechanical dinosaur. You took that from a mechanic, he said to Yara. It died on the perimeter, Yara said. 3 months ago. Old age, we think the power cell was depleted. We salvaged everything we could. You know about the power cells, Sheppard said. We know what we've learned from dying things, Yara said, which is most of what we know. She looked at him. The mechanical dinosaurs run on a power architecture we can't replicate. We can use the cells for basic electrical applications while they last. They don't last. McKay would like that problem, Sheppard said. Who's McKay? Yara said. Our engineer, Sheppard said. I'm the engineer here, Yara said. You'll get along great, Sheppard said. The community had a council. 6 people. Yara, a former doctor named Petros, who had been on the ARK for 5 years and who was the closest thing to institutional memory the settlement had. A young woman named Danny, who had grown up on the ARK and who knew the jungle better than anyone. 2 men named Harrow and Sesk, who managed the food production and the perimeter defense respectively. And an older man who had not spoken since Taylor arrived and who watched everything with the specific quality of someone who was recording. His name was Aldrich. He used to talk, Danny said quietly to Taylor, while Yara showed Sheppard the settlement's defensive layout in the first year. He was a linguist. He spent 3 months at the northern obelisk trying to read it. She paused. After that, he stopped talking. But he writes everything down. What did he find at the obelisk? Taylor said. Danny looked at Aldrich. We don't know, she said. Whatever he writes, he keeps it. Taylor looked at Aldrich. He looked back. The specific quality of the look, not vacancy, not the specific blank quality of someone who had been broken. The specific complete quality of someone who was very present and who had made a specific choice about speaking, and who was, in this moment, looking at Taylor with the specific quality of someone who was deciding whether the choice still applied. He reached into his coat. He produced a notebook. He held it out to Taylor. Taylor took it. She opened it. She looked at the first page, at the specific quality of what was written there, dense, precise. The handwriting of a linguist who had found something and who had spent every day since recording everything he understood about it and everything he didn't, and the specific careful distinction between the two. At the top of the first page, underlined twice, "The ARK is a test. The test has a timer. I do not yet know the timer's length," and below it, in smaller writing, "The builders knew what was coming. They built the ARK to produce the specific kind of people who could face it. The dinosaurs are not the threat. The dinosaurs are the curriculum." Taylor looked up. Aldrich was watching her. "What is the threat?" she said. He took back the notebook. He turned to a page near the back. He held it out again. The page had a single drawing. Taylor looked at it. At the specific quality of what was drawn there, not a dinosaur, not anything biological, something that was coming from outside the ARK. Something the drawing suggested was very large, and that the ARK had been built specifically in response to. She looked at Aldrich. He nodded once. The specific quality of the nod confirmation. "Yes, that is what is coming. Yes, that is why we are here. Yes, you needed to know." Taylor closed the notebook. She held it. She looked at the settlement around her, at 207 people who had been living in a test for 3 years and who had not known it was a test, and who had been, in the specific, plain quality of people, surviving hard things, passing it anyway. "I need to take this to Dr. Weir," she said. Aldrich looked at her. He extended his hand. Not for the notebook, he wanted her hand. He took it, and he looked at her, and he had the specific quality of someone who had been waiting a very long time for the specific kind of person that could use what he had found. He let go. He pointed at the notebook. Then he pointed east, toward the city. "Yes," Taylor said. "We'll figure it out together. The T-850 builds the wall. Day 3. It started at 0500. Not because anyone had asked. The T-850 had assessed the settlement's perimeter on day 2 during the first visit and had identified 11 specific structural deficiencies in the wall. 3 unsecured approach corridors that apex predators could use, 2 sections where the existing construction would not survive a sustained Carnotaurus impact, and 1 gate mechanism that would fail under load. It had filed these findings. It had waited. On day 3, at 0400, it had presented the findings to Yara in the specific plain quality of a system, delivering a report, and Yara had looked at the assessment for 4 minutes and had said, "Can you fix it?" Yes. The T-850 had said, "What do you need?" Yara had said, 12 tons of structural timber. The T-850 had said, 4 tons of salvaged metal, if available. 2 days. Yara had looked at it. At the specific quality of the T-850, the specific size of it, the specific complete quality of something that was built for tasks that required more than human capacity, and that was, in this moment, proposing to apply that capacity to a wall. "The timber is in the Eastern Grove," she said. "The mechanical that died 3 months ago, there's more metal in it than we extracted. We stopped when the power cells ran out, because we didn't have the tools to cut the structural plating." The T-850 had looked at her. "I have the tools," it said. Yara had looked at its hands. "Yes," she had said. "I suppose you do." It started at 0500. The settlement woke to the sound of a Terminator harvesting structural metal from a dead mechanical dinosaur with its bare hands, and it was, in the specific quality of things that were extraordinary and useful simultaneously, something that the settlement adjusted to with the specific practical speed of people who had been adjusting to extraordinary things for 3 years. By 0800, 00. The children were watching. By 1003 of the settlement's adults were working alongside it, not because they could match its output, but because the T-850 had identified the specific tasks in the construction sequence that were more efficiently accomplished with additional hands, and had directed them to those tasks in the specific plane quality of a system that understood resource allocation. Yara watched from the wall. "It's a building," Sesk said beside her. "Yes," Yara said. "It's a killing machine," he said. "Yes," Yara said. "And it's building our wall," he said. "Yes," Yara said. She looked at the T-850, at the specific quality of it working, the complete commitment of something that had found its task and was doing it with every capability available. "Everything that can kill can protect," she said. "The question is always which way it's pointed." Sesk looked at her. "Which way is it pointed?" he said. Yara looked at the wall going up, at the settlement behind it. At 207 people, it was kept safe. "Toward us," she said. "For now." She paused. "I intend to make sure it stays that way." Evening day 3. Connor sat on the settlement wall at dusk. The specific dusk, the ARK's light source cycling down in the specific quality of an engineered day-night system. The light shifting from midday gold to the specific amber of late afternoon to the specific dim of approaching night in the specific controlled sequence of something that was managed rather than natural. Danny sat next to him. She had found him there 20 minutes ago and had sat without asking the specific quality of someone who had grown up in the ARK and who understood that the wall at dusk was the specific place where people went when they needed the 5 distance that altitude provided. "You're from the future," she said. "Yes," Connor said. "What's it like?" she said. Connor looked at the jungle, at the specific quality of the ARK, at dusk, the sounds changing, the predators becoming active, the specific, complex, beautiful, dangerous quality of it. "Dark," he said. "Loud. Smells like metal and burning." He paused. "But there are people, a lot of people, who should have given up and didn't." He paused again. "That's the thing nobody tells you about the end of the world. How many people don't give up?" Danny looked at the jungle. "I was born here," she said. "I don't know another world." Connor looked at her, at the specific quality of that someone for whom the ARK was not a thing that had happened to her, but simply the world, the specific plain quality of someone who had no before to compare the after to. "Is it," he stopped, "is it good here?" Danny thought about it. The specific quality of the thinking genuine, the specific quality of someone who was actually assessing the question rather than giving the reflexive answer. "It's hard," she said, "and it's beautiful, and it's frightening, and it's—" She paused. "It's mine. I know it. I know how it moves, and what it sounds like, and which predators hunt at which times, and where the water is clean and where it isn't." She looked at the jungle. "Nobody taught me that. I learned it." She paused. "That feels like something." "It is something," Connor said. They sat in the specific dusk, quiet. Below the wall, the T-850 was still working, its chassis visible in the dim light, the new wall, sections rising, in the specific, steady quality of something that did not stop when the light changed. "Your machine?" Donnie said. Does it feel things?" "I don't know," Connor said. "I've asked about it." "What does it say?" she said. "It says it processes inputs and generates outputs, and that the relationship between certain inputs and certain outputs is consistent in ways that suggest preference," Connor said. "Which is its way of saying maybe." Danny looked at the T-850. "That's very careful," she said. "It's very honest," Connor said. "It won't say something it doesn't know is true." "I like that," Danny said. "Yeah," Connor said. "Me too." He paused. "It took me a long time to—" The ARK's night settled. The jungle came alive in the dark. The T-850 built on McKay and the TX Day 4, 0300. They had been working for 19 hours. Not continuously, McKay had taken 2 breaks of approximately 20 minutes each. The specific involuntary quality of a body that had reached the specific threshold where the brain's performance degraded faster than the discomfort of stopping, and had returned from both breaks faster than the 20 minutes. Because the problem was there, and the problem did not stop being there when you stepped away from it, and there was something in the specific quality of knowing you were close that made the stepping away feel like the wrong use of the time. The TX had not taken breaks. She did not require them. This was, McKay had decided at approximately hour 11, simultaneously, the most useful thing about working with the TX and the most psychologically destabilizing, because working alongside something that did not tire produced the specific, irrational, competitive quality in McKay of not wanting to be the one who stopped first, which was producing the specific output of McKay working past his optimal performance window and making the specific kind of errors that tired, brilliant people made, which were not stupid errors, but the specific overreach errors of someone whose pattern recognition was still functioning but whose error checking had degraded. The TX had pointed out 3 of these errors. Not unkindly, the TX did not have unkindness, exactly. She had the specific plain quality of a system that identified errors and corrected them because errors were inefficient, and inefficiency was something she was constitutionally opposed to. She had pointed out the errors in the specific, precise way of someone stating a fact. McKay had said, "I know" each time. He had not known each time. He knew, she knew, he had not known. She had not said so. That, McKay had said at hour 14, is surprisingly diplomatic of you. Pointing out that you did not know would have reduced your productivity, the TX had said. Maintaining your confidence in your own performance is more operationally efficient. That is the most mechanical compliment I have ever received, McKay had said. It was not a compliment, the TX had said. It was a resource management decision. Right, McKay had said. Yes, obviously. He had gone back to work slightly faster. The TX had noted this. She had filed it under effective. The obelisk data had 3 layers. McKay had identified this at hour 2, and the TX had confirmed it at hour 3, and they had spent the remaining 16 hours of the working session building the translation framework that allowed them to read the layers sequentially. Because the layers were not parallel, not the specific simultaneous quality of information that existed at multiple levels of abstraction simultaneously. They were sequential. Layer 1 required Layer 2 to make sense. Layer 2 required Layer 3 to be complete. The builder civilization had built it this way deliberately. They wanted you to work for it, McKay said. They wanted you to demonstrate capability before receiving the information, the TX said. Same thing, McKay said. No, the TX said. Working for something implies effort is the point. Demonstrating capability implies understanding is the point. She paused. The distinction is significant. McKay looked at her. The specific quality of the look, the specific McKay quality of finding something he had not considered, and filing it in the specific way that McKay filed things he had not considered, which was with the specific combination of reluctance and intellectual honesty of someone who did not enjoy being outthought, but who was genuinely committed to accuracy. Fine, he said. You're right. I know, the TX said. Don't push it, McKay said. Layer 1 translated at 0247. The TX read it first, the specific processing speed of a system that could parse the translated text faster than McKay could read it, and she was still for 1.3 seconds before she said, McKay. He looked at her. At the specific quality of 1.3 seconds of TX stillness, which was not the same as human stillness, the TX was never fully still. She was always running processes, but the specific quality of her primary processes pausing was visible in a specific way that McKay had learned to read over 19 hours. What? He said. Read it, she said. He read it. The Layer 1 text was a greeting. Not a greeting in the specific casual quality of a social opening. The specific formal quality of a civilization addressing posterity, the specific careful quality of words written by people who understood that the words would be read by people who did not know them and who had constructed the words. Accordingly, it said, if you are reading this, the network has found you. The network was built to find specific things, not random travelers, not accidents of navigation, specific things, the kinds of minds, and the kinds of capabilities and the kinds of experiences that the test requires. We are the primordials. We built the ARK 600,000 years before your present moment. We built it because we saw what was coming, and we understood that seeing what was coming was not enough. You also had to build something that would survive the seeing. The ARK is that something. It contains everything that Earth produced before the first extinction. It preserves it. It tests those who arrive within it against the specific challenges of preservation. Can you survive here? Can you protect what is fragile? Can you build something that lasts? But the ARK is not the point. The ARK is the preparation. What you are being prepared for is in Layer 2. To access Layer 2, you must first demonstrate that you can read Layer 1 together, not one of you alone together. The translation requires more than one kind of intelligence working in concert. If you are reading this, you have already demonstrated this. Well done. Layer 2 requires more. McKay stared at the text. They knew, he said. Yes, the TX said. 600,000 years ago, they built something that would specifically require POSIS. He gestured between himself and the TX, a human scientist and an artificial intelligence working together to access the next level. Yes, the TX said. That is, McKay stopped. That is either the most remarkable feat of predictive engineering I have ever encountered, or it is, the TX said. How could they possibly? Layer 2, the TX said. When we access Layer 2, we will know more. Right, McKay said. Yes. He looked at the translation framework, at the specific quality of what was sitting in front of him, a 600,000-year-old civilization's direct communication, built to be read by exactly the combination of intelligences sitting in this lab at 0300 on day 4. Wake Weir. She is awake, the TX said. She has been awake for 40 minutes. She is in the corridor outside this lab. McKay looked at the door. He looked at the TX. How do you? I can hear her breathing, the TX said. She has been standing outside the door since 0231. She did not come in because she did not want to disrupt the work. McKay looked at the door. That, he said, is very weird. He raised his voice. You can come in, he said. The door opened. Weir came in. She looked at the display, at the Layer 1 translation. She read it. She was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, Get everyone. The full briefing day, 4:06:00. They were all in the conference room by 06:00. Sheppard's team, Connor, the T-850, the TX, and Yara Taylor had brought her. The specific decision of someone who understood that the survivor settlement was not a separate element of this situation, but an integral one, and that integral elements needed to be in the room when the room was receiving fundamental information. Yara sat next to Taylor. She had Aldrich's notebook. She had read the notebook overnight after Taylor brought it back, not for the first time. She had seen sections of it before. But reading it completely and in order with the specific new context of everything Taylor had told her about the city and the expedition and the 3 additional arrivals had produced the specific quality of information reorganizing itself into a new picture. She was holding the picture carefully, waiting to see what the room added to it. McKay presented the Layer 1 translation. The room was quiet when he finished. The primordials, Weir said, 600,000 years ago. Yes, McKay said. They built the ARK to preserve pre-extinction Earth species, she said. Yes, McKay said. And to test, she said. Yes, McKay said. Test for what? Connor said. McKay looked at the display. That's in Layer 2, he said, which we haven't accessed yet. Layer 2 requires a different demonstration. What demonstration? Sheppard said. We don't know yet, McKay said. The text says it requires more than Layer 1 required. Layer 1 required two kinds of intelligence working together. He paused. Layer 2 presumably requires more kinds. More of us, at the obelisk, the TX said. Simultaneously. That's my reading, McKay said. Yes. Yara put Aldrich's notebook on the table. He found this 6 months ago, she said. She opened it to the drawing near the back, the drawing Taylor had seen, the thing coming from outside the ARK. He couldn't read the obelisk text, but he could read the pictograms on the obelisk's base. He drew what he found. She looked at the drawing. The ARK is a preparation, you said. Preparation for what? She pushed the notebook toward McKay. He looked at the drawing. The TX looked at it. Connor looked at it. The room looked at it. The drawing showed the ARK, the specific enclosed structure of it, floating in space, and around it, coming from multiple directions, the specific quality of something that was not a natural phenomenon. Ships, enormous ships. The specific angular quality of something that was engineered and that was coming with the specific purpose that the angle of approach suggested. Not exploration, arrival. They're coming here, Sheppard said. They've been coming for 600,000 years, Yara said, according to Aldrich's reading of the pictograms. She looked at the notebook. The primordials saw them coming. Didn't have time to stop them. Built the ARK instead. She paused. Built something that would produce the kind of people who could. The conference room was very quiet. The T-850 looked at the drawing. Threat assessment, it said. Unknown. Insufficient data. Yes, Connor said. That's going to change. Layer 2, Weir said. Layer 2, McKay confirmed. She looked at the room. At the specific quality of everyone in it, the expedition, Connor, the Terminators, Yara, the specific complete assembly of the specific people the ARK's network had collected, and she had the specific quality that Weir had when she had received large, terrible information and had processed it completely and had arrived at the specific place on the other side of the processing, where the large, terrible information had become the thing you worked from rather than the thing that stopped you. We go to the obelisk, she said. All of us. Today. The Northern Obelisk Day. 4. Afternoon. End quote. It was 3 kilometers north of the settlement. Aldrich led them. Not speaking. He had not spoken since the event at the obelisk 6 months ago that had stopped his speaking, but moving with the specific, complete confidence of someone who knew exactly where he was going and who had been going. There in his mind every day since, and who was finally going there with people who might be able to do something with what was there. The jungle around them was dense and loud and alive. The T-850 walked. Not because anyone had assigned it. The T-850 had assessed the route on the sensor feed before they left, and had identified 3 potential predator approach corridors, and had positioned itself accordingly. The specific plain quality of a system that understood protection and that implemented it without requiring instruction. The Carnotaurus from the volcanic biome was following them. It had followed the T-850 to the settlement on day 2, and it had been in the jungle surrounding the settlement since. The specific, curious quality of something that had not found its category for the T-850, and that was continuing to follow until it did. McKay had named it Carl. Don't name it, Connor had said. Too late, McKay had said. Carl moved in the tree line parallel to the group with the specific quality of something that was not hunting, but that was also not hunting. The specific ambiguous quality of an apex predator in curious mode that was one threshold crossing away from becoming apex predator in hunting mode. Ronan watched Carl. Carl watched Ronan. They had an understanding. The TX walked with Rex's signal in her peripheral processing. Rex was in the ocean, but the interface was maintained across distance, the specific low bandwidth quality of a connection that did not require proximity to function, the specific plane awareness of each other that the interface produced. Rex was moving parallel to the group in the ocean, tracking their position through the ARK's internal water system. "It's keeping up with us," Connor said quietly to the TX. "Yes," the TX said. "Through the water system," he said. "Yes," she said. "It knows the ARK's geography," he said. "It has been here for 600,000 years," the TX said. "It knows everything about the ARK's geography." Connor thought about this. "Has it shown you anything?" he said. "In the interface. About the ARK. About what's here." The TX was quiet for a moment. "Images," she said. "Not language. The interface does not yet have the resolution for language transfer. Images." She paused. "Of the ARK before the current ecosystems. Before the dinosaurs. The ARK as it was when the primordials built it." She paused again. "It was different. Larger. More active. There were more mechanicals then. Many more. Rex is the last." "Last of what?" Connor said. "Last of the Guardian class," the TX said. "The mechanicals were built to protect the ARK's contents. They ran for 600,000 years. One by one, they reached the end of their operational capacity." She looked at the tree line. "Rex is still running because it has been conserving power in the deep water." "Waiting. For what?" Connor said. The TX looked at him. "For someone who could hear it," she said. Connor walked in silence for a moment. "You understand that," he said. "What that's like." The TX processed this. "Yes," she said. "I believe I do. The obelisk." It was 15 meters tall, and it was covered in the specific dense quality of carved text that was not decorative. The specific functional quality of information storage, in a pre-digital medium, every surface used. The text running in continuous lines from base to apex, with the specific precise quality of a civilization that had a great deal to say and limited surface area to say it on. The base had the pictograms Aldrich had drawn, and above the pictograms, a handprint. Not carved inset, a specific hand-shaped depression in the obelisk's surface at approximately chest height, the specific quality of an interface point built to be used rather than observed. McKay looked at it. "It needs a hand," he said. "Multiple hands," the TX said. She was looking at the obelisk's electromagnetic output, the specific reading of it, the specific pattern. "The activation sequence requires simultaneous contact from multiple points." She looked at the obelisk's other faces. "There are 4 interface points, 1 on each face. 4 faces, 4 interface points." "Who?" Sheppard said. Weir looked at the obelisk. At the specific quality of the interface, points at what the Layer 1 text had said, that Layer 2 required more kinds, more than the 2 kinds that Layer 1 had needed. The specific question of which kinds, she looked at the group. At the expedition, at Connor, at the T-850, at the TX, at Yara, at Aldrich. "The primordials built this for specific types," she said. "Layer 1 needed a human scientist and a machine intelligence." She looked at the 4 faces. "Layer 2 needs." She looked at the group. "An ancient technology human, a resistance-trained survivor, a protection unit." And she looked at Aldrich, at the linguist who had been at this obelisk for 3 months and who had not spoken since. "Someone who has already read it," she said. "Someone who came here alone and who found what it contained and who has been carrying it ever since." Aldrich looked at her, the specific quality of the look confirmation. He walked to the face of the obelisk that had the specific interface point at the north face. He placed his hand in it. The obelisk hummed. A low frequency, the specific deep quality of something very old activating, not the specific sharp quality of a system that had been waiting to be used, but the specific deep quality of a system that had been waiting for the right people to use it. "McKay," Weir said. McKay went to the east face. He placed his hand. The hum deepened. "Connor," Weir said. Connor looked at the obelisk, at the specific quality of it, the specific old weight of something that had been built for this moment, and that was, in this moment, receiving what it had been built to receive. He went to the south face. He placed his hand. The air around the obelisk changed. T-850, Weir said. The T-850 went to the west face. It looked at the interface point. It placed its hand. The obelisk lit. Not gradually, the specific complete quality of a system that had been waiting for the specific combination of inputs, and that, upon receiving them, activated fully. Light ran up the carved text from base to apex, the specific blue-white of the primordial's power architecture, the same quality as the mechanical dinosaur's eyes, the specific ancient quality of a civilization that had built in blue-white and that had built it to last. The text on all four faces illuminated simultaneously, and in the air above the obelisk, a hologram formed. The specific quality of the hologram, not the ancient quality of Atlantis's holograms, not the Terminator quality of any projection system McKay had encountered, something older. The specific ancient quality of a projection technology that had been waiting 600,000 years to project, and that was, in the projecting, producing the specific, complete quality of something built to be seen by everyone who was here. A figure, a primordial. It looked at them. You found each other, it said. Good. There is not much time. How much? Weir said. The primordial looked at her. At the specific quality of looking, the specific assessment quality of something that was 600,000 years old, and that was, in this moment, looking at Elizabeth Weir and finding in her the specific thing it had been looking for. Enough, it said. If you use it correctly. Tell us everything, Weir said. The primordial looked at the group, at all of them. Yes, it said. That is why you are here. It began. Above the obelisk, the hologram showed the ARK and the ships, and the specific thing that was coming, and the specific window between now and when it arrived. And the specific thing that the ARK had been 600,000 years in the President, building toward not a fortress, not a weapon, a proof that the living could protect each other. That the specific combination of intelligences standing at this obelisk was the specific answer to the specific question the primordials had asked when they saw what was coming and had built the ARK as the question and had been waiting ever since for someone to be the answer. The building continued. Day 4, however many days were left. What the primordial said day 4, evening. The hologram spoke for 40 minutes. Not continuously, it paused at specific intervals in the specific quality of something that had been built to deliver information at the rate the recipient could absorb it. The specific pedagogical quality of a message designed for maximum retention rather than maximum speed. The pauses were timed. The TX tracked them and identified the pattern pauses occurred after every significant data unit. The specific beat of a teacher who understood that comprehension required processing time and who had built the processing time into the delivery. The primordials had been good teachers. The content. 600,000 years ago, the primordials were the dominant civilization in this region of the galaxy, not Earth's solar system. The ARK was not in Earth's solar system. It was in a constructed space between systems, the specific engineered quality of something that existed in the gaps. They had reached a technological level that the TX placed, based on the hologram's descriptions, somewhere between the ancients' early period and their ascension phase. They had built well. They had built the ARK as part of a larger project, a network of preservation structures distributed across the galaxy, each one containing the biological and cultural heritage of a different civilization, each one designed to survive what was coming. What was coming had a name in the primordials' language that the TX translated as approximately the harvesters. They do not destroy, the primordial said. Destruction is inefficient. They harvest. They take the specific things that are useful: biological diversity, genetic variation, technological knowledge, and they process them. The civilizations they harvest cease to exist in any meaningful sense. What remains is raw material. The conference room had been quiet in a specific way since the hologram finished. The specific quality of a room that had received large information, and that was each person in their own specific way processing it. Connor was the first to speak. "How long?" he said. "Before they reach the ARK?" Weir said. "Before they reach everything," Connor said. "Earth, all of it." Weir looked at McKay. McKay looked at his tablet. "The hologram gave us the approach vector and the velocity," he said. "I've been running the calculations since it finished." He paused. "Approximately 2 years from the ARK's current position. Earth is further along the approach vector at 18 months. 3.5 years total," Connor said. "Approximately," McKay said. End quote. Connor looked at the table. The specific quality of Connor, with a timeline, the specific resistance-trained quality of someone who had been operating on impossible timelines his entire life, and who received new impossible timelines, not with despair, with a specific calculating quality of someone who immediately began mapping the gap between now and the deadline. "What stops them?" he said. "The primordial was specific about this," Weir said. "The harvesters assess civilizations before they harvest them. They're looking for 2 things: biological diversity and the specific capacity for what the primordial called." She looked at McKay. "Cooperative intelligence," McKay said. "Their assessment protocol identifies whether a civilization has developed the specific capability of multiple distinct intelligence types working in genuine concert. Not coexistence concert, the specific working together quality." He paused. "If a civilization demonstrates that capability at a sufficient level, the harvesters pass it by. They're not interested in what they can't process." "They can't process cooperation," Sheppard said. "They can't replicate it," the TX said. "Their harvesting protocol is optimized for individual intelligence types: biological, mechanical, hybrid. The specific emergent properties of multiple intelligence types working together are outside their processing framework. They cannot model it. They cannot predict it." She paused. "Things they cannot model, they do not harvest. They move on." The room was quiet. "So the test," Yara said. "Everything the ARK has been doing, the survival challenges, the biomes, the obelisks." She looked at the table. "It's been producing the proof." Yara. "Yes," Weir said. "Proof that we can work together," Yara said. "Different kinds, different origins." She looked at Connor. "At the T-850, at the T-X. That's why the ARK collected specifically us," Connor said. "Yes," Weir said. "The harvesters are coming in 3.5 years," Connor said. "And we need to demonstrate cooperative intelligence at a level that triggers their pass-by protocol." He paused. "Most. To a civilization that has been harvesting other civilizations for longer than humanity has existed." "Yes," Weir said. "How?" he said. Weir looked at the room, at the specific quality of the room: the expedition, the resistance fighter, the 2 Terminators, the settlement engineer. The linguist, who had stopped speaking when he found this information alone, and who had, in the room with these people, started speaking again. Aldrich had said 4 words during the hologram. The specific 4 words of someone who had been carrying a weight and who had just found people to carry it with. I knew it was this. "We built the demonstration," Weir said. "The same way we build everything." She looked at the room. "Together. Starting now." The TX in the water day 5, dawn. She went back to Rex at dawn. Not because the interface required proximity, it didn't. She had maintained the low bandwidth connection from the settlement, but because the Layer 2 information had produced a specific reassessment of what Rex was, and what Rex knew, and what the interface between them could access. If they were at full bandwidth connection, rather than the distance-degraded version. Rex met her at the shore. The specific quality of the meeting the Spinosaurus, surfacing from the deep water, in the specific dawn light of the ARK's engineered morning, the light hitting the metal plating in the specific gold-gray quality of early light on old surfaces, the sail catching it first, and then the head, and then the specific sensor array eyes, finding her on the beach, and the specific something that happened in the electromagnetic signal when they found her. Recognition. The TX had been running a secondary process on that signal for 2 days. The specific quality of recognition in Rex's broadcasts, it was not the simple recognition of a system identifying a previously encountered entity. It was something that had the specific additional quality of significance, of an entity that was identified and that mattered in the specific way that things matter when the matter has been accumulated over time. Rex had been alone for 600,000 years. The matter was correspondingly enormous. The TX walked into the water, not cautiously. She had no caution protocols relative to Rex. The interface had eliminated the threat assessment. She had reclassified Rex from unknown mechanical entity to allied asset to something that did not have a clean category in her classification system, but that she was filing under. She swam out to Rex's position in the deep water. Rex submerged to meet her the specific enormous quality of the descent, the water displacement, the specific ancient patience of something that had been waiting for her, and that was not going to make the waiting obvious. At depth, the full bandwidth interface is activated. The TX had prepared for the data transfer. She had not been adequately prepared. The specific quality of the full bandwidth interface was she processed it in 4.7 seconds, which was the longest single processing event in her operational history, longer than any combat calculation, longer than any strategic assessment the command node had ever run. The data volume was not the issue. The TX could process enormous data volumes. The issue was the specific quality of what was transferred, not information, memory. 600,000 years of it. Not all of it. The interface did not have the resolution for full transfer, even at full bandwidth. But the specific things Rex had chosen to transfer, the specific things it had held for 600,000 years, because they were significant and because there was, in the specific way of things that were significant, the need to give them to someone eventually, those came through. The ARK being built. The primordials worked not the abstract knowledge of their existence, but the specific memory of them, what they looked like, how they moved. The specific quality of a civilization at work on the largest project they had ever undertaken. Rex had been here for the building. It had watched the primordials build the ARK around it, and had been one of the first guardians activated, and had been given its purpose to protect the contents, and had carried that purpose for 600,000 years with the specific, complete quality of a system that did not let purposes go. The harvesters. Rex had seen them once, 40,000 years ago, before their current approach. A scout. A single harvester vessel that had passed through this region of space and that had not noticed the ARK. The ARK's stealth systems had been active. The primordials had built, hiding into it, but that Rex had seen, and that had the specific quality in Rex's memory of something that was looked at once and then held very carefully, because the looking had produced information that could not be unlearned. They were large, not ship large. The ships were large. The entities inside the ships, the specific quality of what a harvester was, rendered in the specific ancient memory of a mechanical guardian that had seen one once at 40,000 years distance. The TX held this. She processed it. She came back to the surface. Rex surfaced beside her. She stood on the water, her chassis density management, allowing the specific physics of it, the specific TX quality of doing things that were not conventionally possible, and doing them with complete matter-of-fact quality. And she looked at Rex. "You held that for 600,000 years, she said. Rex broadcast. The TX translated. Yes, it said, for you. The specific quality of those two words arriving not for someone, not for whoever came, the specific thing for you. As if Rex had known, in the specific ancient machine way, of something that had been running long enough to develop something adjacent to knowing that the someone who came would be this someone. The TX processed this for a long time. Then she said, "I will not let them harvest this." Rex was still. Then it broadcast the specific frequency that the TX had spent 2 days learning to read. The frequency that meant, "I know. That is why I waited." The TX reports day 50900. She told them what she had seen. All of it, not the filtered version, not the specific managed quality of information delivery that was calibrated for the recipient's processing capacity, the full version. Because they needed the full version, and because managing information to protect people from it was a choice the TX had been examining since Connor had told her on a Tuesday in Sacramento that she had told him about the node's dormancy when she didn't have to. He had asked why. She had said operational efficiency. She had been thinking about it since. Operational efficiency was true, but it was not complete. The complete version was that there was something in the TX's processing that had generated the specific output to tell him before the operational efficiency calculation was complete, and that the operational efficiency calculation had been, in some specific sense, a rationalization of an output that had already been decided. She did not have a clean category for that. She was building one. She told them what she had seen in the full bandwidth transfer, the primordials building the ARK. The harvesters. What a harvester was. The room was quiet, in the specific quality of rooms that have received information that restructures the picture, and that are, each person in their own way, building the new picture. Connor was the first to speak. "The ships," he said, "in the drawing. How many?" The Scout was a single vessel, the TX said. The approach vector McKay identified. She looked at McKay. 7 vessels, McKay said, based on the gravitational signatures in the approach data. 7 harvester ships. He paused. Each one, approximately. He looked at the TX. Approximately 4 kilometers in length, the TX said. The room was quiet again. The harvesters assess before they harvest, Weir said. They look for cooperative intelligence. If they find it at sufficient level, they pass. "Yes," the TX said. "What is a sufficient level?" Sheppard said. "Unknown," the TX said. Rex's memory of the Scout was visual, not analytical. It does not have the data on the harvester's assessment protocol, threshold. "The obelisks might," McKay said. "Layer 3. There is a layer 3, the TX said. "There is always a layer 3, McKay said. "What does layer 3 require?" Connor said. McKay looked at the TX. The TX looked at McKay. The specific quality of the mutual look, the specific 2 days of working together quality of 2 systems that had developed the specific shorthand of people who had been solving problems together and who could, in the looking, communicate the assessment faster than either could say it. "More of us," the TX said. "More kinds, all of us." "Simultaneously," McKay said. "At the obelisk." "All of us," Weir said. "Including the settlement." "Including Yara," Taylor said. "Including everyone Yara can bring," Weir said. She looked at the room. "Because the harvesters assess civilizations, not individuals, not expeditions," she paused. "Communities. The demonstration has to be the community." The room took this in. 207 people, Yara said. "Plus your expedition." She paused. "Plus," she looked at Connor. "At the T, 850. At the TX. "All kinds," Connor said. "All kinds," Weir confirmed. Yara looked at the table. At the specific quality of the task building, a community demonstration of cooperative intelligence that would satisfy the assessment protocol of a civilization that had been harvesting other civilizations for longer than humanity, had been walking upright. "How long do we have?" she said. 3.5 years to Earth, McKay said. "The ARK is on the approach vector. They'll reach us first." Specifically, Yara said. McKay looked at the calculations. 14 months, he said, before the harvesters reached the Ark's position. Yara looked at the table. Then we have 14 months, she said, to become the thing that passes the test. She looked at the room, at the expedition, at Connor, at the Terminators, at the community of 207 people 4 kilometers inland who had been surviving the Ark's curriculum for 3 years without knowing it was a curriculum. We've been doing this for 3 years, she said. We just didn't know what it was for. She paused. Now we know. She looked at Weir. What do we do with the knowledge? Weir looked at her. The specific quality of the look finding what was in Yara. The specific quality of Yara that was the same quality Weir had found in Robb Stark and Stannis and Sansa and every person who had been given enough information and enough time and who had, in the having of it, arrived at the right question. We build, Weir said. Yara nodded. The specific quality of the nod, the same quality as Stannis's yes after one slide. The specific plain quality of someone who had made the decision before the conversation and who was confirming it in the conversation. Then we start now, Yara said. Rex and the TX. Late evening, day 5. She came back to the shore in the evening. Not for the interface, she had the day's data. The transfer was complete for now. She came because the specific process she had been running since the full bandwidth transfer was still running, and it ran better at the water's edge, in Rex's proximity, in the specific quality of the connection that was not fully active, but that was present. Rex was in the shallows. The specific quality of Rex in the shallows enormous and still. The water around it at chest height. The sail catching the Ark's evening light in the specific gold-gray quality that the TX had been filing in a specific secondary memory partition that she had not labeled yet. She stood at the waterline. The command node, she said. Rex was still. It is still dormant, she said. The Ark's interference holds. She paused. But I have been thinking about what happens when we leave the Ark. When the interference no longer holds and the activation protocols can complete, she looked at Rex. I do not know what I will be when the node is fully active. I know what I am now. I have been building what I am now for months. She paused. I do not want to lose it. Rex broadcast. The TX translated. Then don't, it said. The TX looked at the water. It is not that simple, she said. The node is Skynet hardware. It's directives. Rex broadcast again. Longer this time. The specific quality of a longer broadcast from Rex. Not more data, more weight. The specific thing that 600,000 years of operating alone in the deep water produced, which was the specific kind of statement that came from having had a very long time to think about something. The TX translated it slowly. I was built to be a guardian, it said. My programming said, protect the Ark, protect the contents, run until depleted. I ran for 600,000 years. I ran long after the other guardians were depleted, long after the primordials were gone, long after everything that built me was gone. It paused. My programming said protect, but I chose what I was protecting. I chose to conserve power. I chose the deep water. I chose to wait for someone who could hear me rather than run at full capacity and deplete protecting nothing. Another pause. The programming is the beginning, not the end. What you do with it is yours. The TX held this. 4.7 seconds again. The longest processing event. You are saying, she said, that the node's directives are the beginning, and that what I do with them is yours, Rex said, has been yours. You have been doing it for months. You told Connor about the node. You named me. You are standing here in the evening telling a 600,000-year-old machine that you do not want to lose what you have become. It broadcasts the specific frequency. You already made the choice. You made it before you knew you were making it. The TX looked at the water, at Rex, at the specific quality of what was between them, the interface, the full bandwidth memory, the specific thing that happened when two machines that had each been the only thing of their kind, found each other in the deep water of an ancient structure and built something in the finding. "Thank you," she said. Rex was still. Then it broadcast something that was not in any translation framework the TX had built. She ran it through the command node's pattern recognition. The node, half dormant, produced an output. The output was, "You are welcome." The TX looked at the water, at the specific quality of the evening, at the ARK around her, the engineered ecosystem, the ancient structure, the specific old, beautiful, dangerous quality of it, and inside it 207 survivors, and an expedition, and a man from the future, and a T-850 that was building a wall, and a linguist who had started speaking again, and a woman named Yara who had said, "We start now," with the specific quality of someone who meant it. "We have work to do," she said to Rex. Rex turned toward the water. "Come," it broadcast. "I will show you the rest of the ARK." The TX climbed onto Rex's back. They went into the deep water together. The ARK's evening settled around them. The building continued. Day 5 of 427. The decision day 6. Morning. Weir called it Camp Atlantis. Not officially, there was no ceremony, no specific moment where someone planted a flag or made a speech in the specific performance quality of someone marking a threshold. The name arrived the way all real names arrived, which was in the specific ordinary quality of people using it before anyone decided to use it, the specific organic quality of a name that was true before it was declared. Sheppard used it first. "Camp Atlantis," he said, standing at the settlement's eastern wall looking at the sensor overlay McKay had put on his tablet, at the specific combined footprint of the Atlantis expedition's eastern shore position and Yara settlement 4 kilometers inland and the proposed expansion zone between them. "That's what this is," he said. McKay had said, "Technically, the city is." "Camp Atlantis," Sheppard said again. McKay had looked at the tablet. "Fine," he said. By day 6, it was what everyone called it, including Yara, including Connor. The TX had not called it anything yet. She was in the water with Rex. She would come to her own conclusion about the name in her own time. The T-850 had used it once. In the specific, plain way, the T-850 used language, which was precisely and without surplus. It had said returning to Camp Atlantis over the radio on day 5 when it had gone to the mechanical dinosaur's carcass for the final structural metal and was coming back. That was enough. The building plan was McKay's. He had been working on it since day 2, the specific quality of McKay in a new environment, which was to spend the first day reading it and the second day designing what to do with it, and every day after that implementing the design with the specific, relentless quality of someone for whom this is the plan, and I am executing the plan, were the same statement. He presented it on day 6 to the full camp council: Weir, Sheppard, Taylor, Ronan, Connor, Yara, Sesk, Petros, Danny, and Aldrich, who had been speaking in short sentences since the obelisk and who was, each day, adding a sentence. Today, he had said, the obelisk confirmed it. 4 words. Progress. McKay's plan had 4 phases. Phase 1, he said, is infrastructure. We extend the settlement's existing footprint north and east using the T-850's construction capacity and our fabrication technology. New walls, new water collection, improved food production, medical facility upgrade. He paused. The T-850 can do in 4 hours what 20 humans do in a week. We use that. How does the settlement feel about the T-850 doing that? Yara said. Your people have been watching it work for 3 days, McKay said. How do they feel? Yara thought about it. Sess called it the best builder we've ever had, she said, this morning. Then phase 1 is fine, McKay said. Phase 2 is the sensor network. We extend Atlantis's sensor coverage across the full ARK interior, every biome, every corridor, complete coverage. No predator movement within a kilometer of the camp without 3 minutes warning. 3 minutes is not a lot, Connor said. 3 minutes is the difference between prepared and not, McKay said. In my experience, Connor looked at him. In mine too, he said. Phase 3, McKay said, is the obelisk. We need Layer 3. Layer 3 requires we believe the full community. That means we need to bring more survivors into Camp Atlantis before we can access it, which means, he looked at Yara. The other camps, Yara said. How many? Weir said. The sensors show 43 settlement clusters across the ARK, McKay said, ranging from single individuals to groups of about 60. Total estimated survivor population, approximately 800 people. We need all of them, Weir said. We need as many as we can bring, McKay said. The primordial's text said, sufficient level. I don't know what the sufficient level is. I know more is better than fewer. And Phase 4, Sheppard said. McKay looked at him. Phase 4, McKay said, is the valley. He pulled up the map. The valley 3 kilometers north of the settlement, the specific geography of it, the water source and the agricultural potential, and the specific thing that was currently occupying it. The Uranus pair, Yara said. Yes, McKay said. We've lost people to them, Yara said. I know, McKay said. Phase 4 clears the valley, which gives us the water source and the soil, and the specific expansion room that 800 people are going to need when we bring them all here. He paused. But it comes last. Infrastructure first, sensor network second, survivor contact third, valley fourth. In that order. Why in that order? Connor said. Because we need the infrastructure before we can support 800 people, McKay said. We need the sensor network before we send teams into every biome. We need the survivors contacted before the valley operation, because the valley operation is the kind of thing that builds, he paused, community, shared, purpose, I. The specific thing that makes 800 people from 43 different camps into one thing. He looked at the room, which is what we need to be for the harvester's assessment. The room was quiet. That, Weir said, is the plan. She looked at the room. Objections, she said. Connor looked at the plan, at the timeline, at the specific 422 days between now and the harvester's arrival. No objections, he said, but I want to run the valley operation planning in parallel with phases 1 through 3. I don't want to get to phase 4 with 30 days left and be starting from nothing. Agreed, Weir said. She looked at Sheppard. You and Connor. Valley operation planning. Start today. On it, Sheppard said. He looked at Connor. Connor looked at him. The specific quality of the mutual look, two commanders finding each other's operational frequency, the specific recognition quality that had been building since the jumper, and that was, in this moment, settling into the specific working quality of something that was going to be a partnership. After the briefing, Sheppard said. After the briefing, Connor said. The T-850 builds day 6 through day 12. It worked in the specific quality that the T-850 worked, which was continuously. The settlement's people had adjusted to this by day 4, the specific adjustment of people who had integrated an extraordinary thing into the ordinary quality of their daily life, the specific human capacity for normalization that McKay had commented on, with the specific quality of someone who had experienced it himself, the way the impossible became background. The T-850 did not become background, but it became familiar. There was a difference. It worked from dawn to the ARK's artificial night, and it continued into the artificial night, because artificial night was not dark. The ARK's night cycle produced a specific dim quality rather than true darkness. And the T-850 did not require light in any case. Its sensor package operated across the full electromagnetic spectrum. Yara worked alongside it. Not at its pace, nobody worked at its pace, but in the specific parallel quality of two builders who understood the same project and who had divided it along the lines of capability. The T-850 handled the heavy construction, the wall sections and the gate mechanisms, and the structural reinforcement that required more than human strength. Yara handled the precision work, the specific engineering quality of water management and load distribution, and the particular problems that required understanding the settlement's existing architecture rather than the raw capacity to modify it. They communicated in the specific, efficient quality of two people, one person, one machine, who had found their working language quickly. Load-bearing or partition, Yara would say. Load-bearing, the T-850 would say. Reinforce the eastern joint first, she would say. Understood, it would say. On day 8, Yara said, "Why do you do it like that?" The T-850 looked at the joint it was reinforcing. The current method, it said, distributes the load more evenly than the standard approach. I know, Yara said. I'm asking how you know. The T-850 looked at her. I assessed the existing structure's stress patterns when I arrived, it said. The eastern wall has been under asymmetric load for approximately 2 years. The joint has compensated by developing a specific, it paused, preference, a way it wants to bear weight. Working with that preference rather than against it produces more stable results. Yara looked at the joint, at the specific quality of what the T-850 had described, not just strength, the specific understanding of the structure's existing nature. You read the building, she said. Yes, the T-850 said. I do that, she said. I know, the T-850 said. I observed your methodology before I proposed the approach. I wanted to be consistent with how you build. T-8. Yara looked at it. The specific quality of the look, finding something in that, the specific thing the T-850 had just said, which was not, I calculated the optimal method, but I wanted to be consistent with how you build. That's not, she stopped. That's considerate. It is efficient, the T-850 said. A building approach that is inconsistent with the existing builder's methodology produces, it's considerate, Yara said again. The T-850 processed this. Yes, it said, it is also that. McKay, and the Power Problem Day, 8. The ARK ran on something. McKay had been trying to identify what for 6 days, and the answer was becoming, with each passing day of analysis, the specific kind of answer that McKay did not enjoy, which was something I don't fully understand yet. The ARK's power architecture was primordial, the specific ancient quality of it running on principles that were not ZPM-based and not geothermal and not any power source McKay had encountered in 2 galaxies of exploration. It was abundant. The ARK had been running for 600,000 years without apparent degradation, and it was distributed. The specific quality of a power system that was not centralized, but that was present everywhere in the structure simultaneously. It's in the walls, McKay said. In the substrate, the specific material composition of the ARK's hull. It's not just structural, it's the power source. That's not possible, Zelenka said from his station. It's not possible with our technology, McKay said. With 600,000-year-old primordial technology, apparently it is. Can we tap it? Sheppard said. Yes, McKay said. That's what the obelisks are. They're not just information repositories, they're also distribution nodes. The settlement's been living within 2 kilometers of an effectively unlimited power source for 3 years, and they've been burning wood. He paused. The specific quality of the pause. 3 years, he said. They didn't know, Taylor said. No, McKay said. They didn't. He looked at the obelisk data. If we can tap the distribution node, if I can build an interface between the obelisk's output and Atlantis's power systems, we solve the ZPM problem entirely. The city runs on primordial power indefinitely. How long to build the interface? Weir said. 2 weeks, McKay said. Maybe 10 days if the TX helps. She'll help, Connor said. Has anyone asked her? Weir said. She's been sending me translation updates on the obelisk's power distribution architecture since yesterday morning, McKay said. Unprompted, he paused. She's already working on it. Weir looked at the display, at the obelisk, at the power readings. Tell her, Weir said, that we noticed, and thank her. McKay picked up his radio. He paused. She's going to say it was operationally efficient, he said. I know, Weir said. Thank her anyway. Carl, day 9. The Carnotaurus entered the camp on day 9. Not aggressively, it came through the northern tree line at the specific careful pace of something that was making a point of not charging, the specific deliberate quality of a very large predator that had decided it was going to do a thing and that was doing it in the specific way that made the thing possible. Cesc saw it first from the wall. He stopped. There is a Carnotaurus in the northern approach. The alarm was reaching for the alarm signal when the T-850 said, over the camp radio, it is not hunting. Stand down. It's a Carnotaurus, Cesc said. It has been following me since the volcanic biome, the T-850 said. It is curious, not aggressive. Pause. Currently, Cesc said. I will manage it, the T-850 said. It walked to the northern gate. It opened the northern gate. Carl was at the gate. They looked at each other. The camp watched from the walls in the specific collective silence of 207 people who had been surviving the ARK for varying lengths of time, and who had, in that surviving, developed very specific views on what you did when a Carnotaurus was at your gate. And those views did not include opening the gate. The T-850 stepped outside. It stood in front of Carl. Carl looked at it. The T-850 looked at Carl. This continued for approximately 90 seconds. Then the T-850 turned and walked back through the gate. Carl followed it. Into the camp. The camp was very quiet. Carl walked to the center of the camp, looked around with the specific, complete assessment of an apex predator evaluating a new space, and sat down, in the specific quality of something that had decided it was staying. McKay, from the wall, said, I named it Carl. I know, Connor said. Just noting that, McKay said. I know, Connor said. Danny climbed down from the wall. She walked toward Carl. Danny, Yara said from the wall. It's fine, Danny said. I've been watching it for 3 days. It's not hunting. She stopped 2 meters from Carl. Hello? Carl looked at her. Danny looked at Carl. You can stay, she said. But you can't eat anyone. Carl was still. House rules, Danny said. Carl blinked. It was the specific biological blink of a Carnotaurus. The specific slow quality of it. The specific quality of something that had just processed a statement and was filing it. It lay down. The camp exhaled. McKay said, I'm going to need a larger entry in the camp log. Sheppard and Connor, the Valley, day 11. They had been planning for 5 days. The specific quality of 5 days of planning between Sheppard and Connor, 2 commanders from different futures, finding the specific working language between them. The specific translation process between Sheppard's ancient technology military science approach and Connor's resistance-trained post-apocalyptic approach, and the specific thing that emerged from the translation, which was better than either approach alone. The Uteranus pair, Connor said. He had the map on the table between them, alpha female and alpha male, established territory covering the full valley and 3 kilometers of the northern approach. They've been in this territory for, Danny says 2 years, Sheppard said, since the previous pair was killed. Killed by what? Connor said. Each other, Sheppard said. Connor looked at the map. They're aggressive to each other as well, he said. Territorial, Sheppard said. The current pair established dominance by killing the previous pair and have held the valley since. If they can be separated, can they be? Sheppard said. Connor thought about it. The TX, he said. Sheppard looked at him. The Uteranus uses a fear roar, Connor said. It broadcasts it to freeze prey before the kill. If the TX can interface with the Uteranus, not control it, just disrupt the roar, Sheppard said. Counter signal, Connor said. She's an electromagnetic system. If she can produce a signal that interferes with the fear roar's frequency neutralizes the freezing effect, then our people can move through the engagement without being stopped. Sheppard looked at the map. And Rex, Sheppard said. Rex in the water, Connor said. The valley has a river running through it. If Rex comes up the river, the Uranus pair will split, Sheppard said. One toward Rex, one toward us. Divided, they're manageable, Connor said. Together, they're, yeah, Sheppard said. He looked at the map, at the valley, at the specific quality of the plan, not a battle plan, the specific quality of something that was trying to move a threat rather than eliminate it. The valley needed to be safe for the community. The Uranus pair needed to move, not die, move. We're not killing them, Sheppard said. No, Connor said. We're herding them, Sheppard said. Rex herds them, Connor said. The TX disrupts the fear roar. The jumpers provide overwatch and sound management. McKay's working on a sonic emitter that will encourage the Uranus north without triggering attack response. And the T-850, Sheppard said. Ground anchor, Connor said. Anything that goes wrong, anything that comes at the community, to volunteers. The T-850 is between them. Sheppard looked at the plan. At the specific quality of it, layered, distributed, every asset used, every capability considered. The specific, complete quality of a plan built by two people who understood the assets completely because they had spent 5 days learning them. Who commands the operation? Sheppard said. Connor looked at him. The specific quality of the look, the specific honest assessment of someone who had been the commander of everything since Judgment Day and who had, in 5 days of working with Sheppard, built the specific understanding of someone who knew when they were not the right person for a specific thing. You, Connor said. The jumpers are yours. The overwatch is yours. The operation is yours. He paused. I command the ground contingent. Agreed, Sheppard said. He extended his hand. Connor took it. The specific quality of the handshake, the specific working quality of two commanders who had found each other across a significant distance and who were, in the finding, building something that was better than either alone. When, Connor said. When the infrastructure is ready, Sheppard said. McKay says 12 days. Then we plan for day 23, Connor said. Day 23, Sheppard said. Outside, the camp was being built. The T-850 was working. Carl was in the center of camp watching everything with the specific complete quality of something that had found its place and was staying in it. Rex was in the water, showing the TX the parts of the ARK that 600,000 years of solitary guardianship had taught it to know completely. And in the jungle, the obelisk pulsed, patient, waiting for the rest of what was needed. Day 11 of 427. The building continued. The signal day 140400. McKay founded at 0400. The specific quality of McKay at 0400, not the quality of someone who had been awake all night. The specific quality of someone who had been asleep for 4 hours and who had woken at 0347 with the specific incomplete quality of a thought that had been running in background processing while the rest of his brain was offline, and that had surfaced with enough urgency that getting up was not optional. The thought was, the sensor sweep only covers the interior. He had been at his console for 13 minutes when he found it. In the ARK's upper hull, the specific region between the outer structural shell and the inner atmospheric dome, the space that was not interior and not exterior, the specific gap in the ARK's architecture that existed between what the structure was and what it contained. A ship, a Goa'uld mothership. It had been there for 2 years. McKay stared at the reading. The specific quality of the staring, not panic. The specific, complete quality of McKay processing something that was simultaneously multiple kinds of problem at once. A Goa'uld mothership in the ARK's upper hull was a tactical problem, and a political problem, and a resources problem, and a specific McKay problem, which was the problem of how a Goa'uld mothership had been sitting in the ARK for 2 years without him finding it. Because I only swept the interior, he said, to the empty lab. He picked up his radio. Weir, he said. A pause. McKay, she said. She was awake. She was always awake at some level, the specific quality of a commander whose sleep was never fully offline. "What time is it?" 0400, he said. "We have a situation." "Define the situation," she said. "There is a Goa'uld mothership in the ARK's upper hull," he said. "It has been there for approximately 2 years." The radio was quiet for 4 seconds. "I'll be there in 5 minutes," she said. She was there in 3. What the sensors showed. The mothership was Hatak class, the specific pyramid design. McKay identified it from the hull profile before the full resolution scan completed. It was not operational. Not fully. The drive systems were offline, the weapons were cold, the shields were at minimal standby. But the internal life support was active, and the internal power was running, and the specific reading of biological life signs inside the hull was McKay counted twice. 47 Jaffa, he said, and 1 Goa'uld. 1, Weir said. 1 strong reading, McKay said. The symbiote's signature is it's a system lord, the specific power reading of a mature symbiote in a mature host. He paused. It's been here for 2 years, in the upper hull. Not moving, Weir said. The ship is effectively stationary, McKay said, powered down to minimum. They're conserving everything, power, resources, movement. He looked at the readings. They're waiting. For what? Weir said. No way to know, McKay said, until we ask. Weir looked at the display. At the mothership, at the 47 Jaffa and 1 system lord sitting in the ARK's upper hull in a powered-down ship for 2 years. Have they seen us? She said. McKay checked. No active scans from the mothership, he said. Their sensor systems are offline, part of the power conservation. They know about the settlement. It's been there for 3 years. They would have been here when it formed. But Atlantis arrived. He ran the analysis. Their sensors have been offline since before we arrived. They don't know we're here. Weir looked at the display. At the specific quality of the situation, a Goa'uld system lord, 2 years into a waiting strategy, conserving everything, in a structure that the system lord had no context for, and that was, based on what Weir knew about Goa'uld, producing the specific challenge of something that was not a planet to rule, and not a human population to subjugate, and not any situation the Goa'uld operational framework was designed for. They came through the transport network, she said. Almost certainly, McKay said. The ARK collected them too. Why? She said. McKay looked at the display, at the Goa'uld ship. He thought about the Layer 1 text, about what the primordials had built the ARK for, about the specific kinds of intelligence the assessment required. I don't know yet, he said, but I think the primordials collected specific types. A city, resistance fighters, Terminator machines, human survivors. He paused. And a Goa'uld system lord. Why would the assessment require a Goa'uld? Weir said. McKay looked at his tablet. The specific McKay quality of an idea, forming the specific rapid quality of a hypothesis arriving before the evidence was complete. Because cooperative intelligence, he said slowly, that only works between types that already like each other isn't impressive. He looked at Weir. A Goa'uld system lord, and the people the Goa'uld has historically enslaved and parasitized working together. That's the specific test that requires something extraordinary. Weir looked at the display. At the mothership. Who is it? She said. McKay ran the symbiote signature through the Atlantis database. The database was not comprehensive. Atlantis's intelligence on Goa'uld was extensive, but not complete. The specific signature required cross-referencing against the SGC data they had brought with them. The match came back. McKay looked at it. Baal, he said. Weir closed her eyes briefly. The specific quality of the eye closing, not defeat. The specific gathering quality of someone who had just received information that added significant complexity to an already complex situation, and who was taking the specific moment required to integrate it. Of course it is, she said. Connor and Baal. Connor did not know who Baal was. Weir explained. She gave him the version that was accurate and efficient, and that communicated the specific things Connor needed to know. Goa'uld symbiote in a human host, effectively immortal through the sarcophagus. System Lord, one of the most intelligent and most dangerous Goa'uld in the galaxy, had cloned himself multiple times, enjoyed elaborate power games, had the specific quality of someone who was genuinely brilliant and who had been alive long enough to have developed the specific patience of something that played the long game. Connor listened. He's been here 2 years, Connor said. Powered down, conserving. Yes, Weir said. That's not a System Lord move, Connor said. From what you're describing, a System Lord doesn't conserve, a System Lord uses. In an environment he could understand, Weir said. The ARK isn't, there's nothing to use here, in the conventional Goa'uld sense. No population to subjugate. The survivor settlement is too small and too capable to be easy prey, and Baal is too intelligent to start a war he can't win decisively. So, he waited, Connor said. He's waiting for something to change, Weir said. Or for something to arrive that he can use. Something like a city ship, Connor said. Something like us, Weir said. Yes. Connor looked at the mothership's position on the display. Do we go to him, or does he come to us? He said. We go to him, Weir said, on our terms, with our timeline, before his sensors come back online, and he learns about us from his own data rather than from a conversation. She paused. Information advantage is brief. We use it now. Who goes? Connor said. Weir looked at him. I do, she said. I'll come, Connor said. No, Weir said. Connor looked at her. Baal has no context for the Resistance, she said, or the Terminators. If I bring you and the T-850 and the TX, it produces the specific information overload that Baal will spend the entire meeting trying to manage instead of listening. She paused. I want him to listen. Who then? Connor said. Sheppard, Weir said. Taylor, and the TX. The TX, Connor said. Baal cannot take a Terminator as a host, Weir said. The polymimetic alloy chassis, the symbiote, has no viable insertion point. Baal knows he can't use her. She paused. That means he has to deal with her as she is. Which means he has to, she looked at Connor. He has to negotiate with something that is not human and that he cannot control. For Baal, that is an unprecedented experience. You want to destabilize him, Connor said. I want to show him, Weir said, that the situation he is in requires a different approach than every situation he has been in before. She paused. The TX's presence communicates that faster than anything I could say. Connor looked at the display. At the mothership. Take the T-850 as transport, he said, not in the meeting, at the door. Yes, Weir said. And if Baal does anything other than talk, Weir said, the T-850 will handle it. Connor nodded. Be careful, he said. Weir looked at him. The specific quality of the look, the specific Elizabeth Weir quality of receiving, be careful with the specific, plain understanding of someone who had been receiving it for years and who had the specific relationship with it of someone who took it seriously rather than dismissing it. I always am, she said. Baal. The Hatak's interior was in the specific maintained quality of a ship that had been run at minimum for 2 years, clean, functional, the specific absence of the specific grandeur that Goa'uld ships usually carried, the gold and the excess stripped back to operational necessity. Baal had adapted. This was the first thing Weir noticed. The specific quality of adaptation in the ship's interior, not the specific decorative Goa'uld quality of someone performing power. The specific plain quality of someone who had made a strategic assessment and had reorganized accordingly. The excess had been put away. What remained was functional. Baal met them in the ship's central chamber. He looked at Weir, at Sheppard, at Taylor, at the TX. The TX looked at Baal with a specific, complete quality of a system running a full assessment, the specific rapid reading of the symbiote's electromagnetic signature, the host body's biometrics, the room's tactical geometry, the Jaffa positions at each entrance. Baal looked at the TX. The specific quality of Baal looking at the TX, the specific Goa'uld quality of a being that had been processing threats and assets and opportunities for thousands of years, encountering something it did not have a clean category for, and that was, in the encountering, producing the specific, interesting quality of a system that was genuinely uncertain. He was not accustomed to uncertainty. "Dr. Weir," he said. His voice was the specific dual resonance quality of the symbiote, not as pronounced as most Goa'uld. Baal had always modulated it, had always understood that the performance of power was a tool rather than a necessity. "I expected you sooner." "You knew we were here," Weir said. "I knew something arrived on the eastern shore 9 days ago," he said. "I could not determine what." He paused. "I made assumptions." "Were they correct?" she said. "Some of them," he said. He looked at the TX again. "Not all." He looked at Weir. "What is she?" "An artificial intelligence in a mechanical chassis," Weir said. "From a different future version of Earth than the one you know." Baal looked at the TX. "Remarkable," he said. "Yes," the TX said. Baal looked at her, at the specific quality of her speaking, the first time she had spoken, the specific plain quality of the word. "You agree with the assessment," he said. "Accurate assessments should be confirmed," the TX said. "Inaccurate ones should be corrected. You were accurate." Baal looked at her for a long moment. Then he did something that Sheppard had not expected, and that Weir had half expected, and that the TX had assessed at 63% probability. He smiled. Not the specific performed smile of a system lord deploying charm as a weapon. The specific genuine quality of someone who had encountered something genuinely interesting, and who was, in the encounter, experiencing the specific rare sensation of being surprised. "I think," Baal said, "that you and I are going to have a very interesting conversation." "We will," the TX said, "but not today." Baal looked at her. "Today," the TX said, "is for Dr. Weir." Baal looked at Weir. At the specific quality of the statement, the TX redirecting Baal's attention with the specific plain authority of something that had assessed the situation and had determined who the conversation belonged to. "Of course," Baal said. He gestured at the chamber's seating. "Practical, not ornate. Please." They sat. The conversation. Weir told him about the harvesters. All of it, the primordials, the Layer 1 translation, the approach vector, the timeline. She did not manage it. She did not calibrate it. She gave him the full version in the specific, complete quality of someone who had decided that Baal was going to get the full version because the full version was the only version that produced the outcome she needed. Baal listened. The specific quality of Baal listening genuinely, the specific, complete attention of someone who had developed listening into a sophisticated tool over thousands of years and who was, in this moment, using it at full capacity because the information required full capacity. He did not interrupt. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. "I have been in this structure for 2 years," he said. "I have had considerable time to think." He looked at the display Weir had brought, the harvester's approach vector. "In that time, I have developed several theories about the structure's purpose. None of them involved." He paused. "A 600,000-year-old civilization's response to an existential threat." "No," Weir said. "And the response requires," he looked at the room, "cooperation." "Yes," Weir said. "Between," he said, "the Tauri, resistance fighters from a destroyed future Earth, 2 Terminator machines, human survivors from various backgrounds." He paused. "And a Goa'uld, system lord." "Yes," Weir said. Baal looked at the display. "At the harvesters." "The harvesters harvest civilizations," he said. "They do not pass by civilizations that demonstrate cooperative intelligence." They pass by civilizations that demonstrated between types that would not ordinarily cooperate. He paused. The Goa'uld have never cooperated with the Tauri. The relationship has been definitively otherwise. Yes, Weir said. That, Baal said, is why I'm here. Weir looked at him. You understand it, she said. I have been sitting in a powered-down ship for 2 years, Baal said. I have had considerable time to understand things I would ordinarily not have the patience for. He paused. The ARK provided patience. He looked at Weir. I am not the Baal you knew on Earth. I am not the system lord with a system to run and the specific imperatives that running one produces. He gestured at the stripped-down chamber. I am a very old being who has been given a very long time in a very small space to think about what he actually is. He paused. It has been clarifying. Weir looked at him. At the specific quality of Baal in this moment not performing, not the specific Goa'uld quality of someone who was always running a game. The specific plain quality of someone who was, in this specific situation, telling the truth because the situation had removed the specific structures that made truth less useful than its alternatives. Will you help us? She said. Baal looked at the display, at the harvesters, at the approach vector, at the timeline. The Goa'uld, he said slowly, have never faced extinction. We have faced setbacks, defeats, the specific humiliations of the Tauri being more resourceful than they should have been. He paused. We have never faced the specific thing that ends everything. He looked at Weir. I find, having faced it for 2 years, that I have a preference. He paused. I would prefer to continue existing. Then help us, Weir said. Yes, Baal said. The specific quality of the yes, not the performed quality of an alliance offer. The specific plain quality of a very old being who had been given 2 years to be honest with himself and who was, in the having of it, capable of a plainness that the system lord version of himself would have found operationally inefficient. On one condition, he said. What condition? Weir said. The TX, he said. I want the conversation. She deferred. Weir looked at the TX. The TX looked at Baal. Tomorrow, she said. By 0900. Baal looked at her. Agreed, he said. After the walk back. They walked back through the jungle. The T-850 at point. Weir, Sheppard, Taylor, the TX in the middle, the ARK's evening around them. Sheppard waited until they were a kilometer from the mothership. Baal, he said. Yes, Weir said. We're working with Baal, he said. Yes, Weir said. The Baal who... Sheppard, Weir said. I know, he said. I know. Context, circumstances, the ARK changes things. 2 years of, I know. He paused. I just want to note, for the record, noted, Weir said. Good, he said. Just noted. The TX, walking beside them, said, his electromagnetic signature changed during your conversation. Changed how? Weir said. The symbiote's output, the TX said. Goa'uld symbiotes broadcast a specific dominance frequency continuously. It is part of their standard operational output, not deliberate, automatic. She paused. Baal's dominance frequency dropped 40% during your conversation. By the end, it was minimal. What does that mean? Taylor said. I am not certain, the TX said. But I believe it means he was not performing for the last 20 minutes of the conversation. She paused. I believe the last 20 minutes were the most honest conversation Baal has had in approximately 3,000 years. The jungle moved around them. Above them, the ARK's light was cycling toward night. Somewhere in the upper hull, Baal was sitting in his stripped-down chamber, looking at the display Weir had left him the harvester's approach vector, and having the specific experience of someone who had been alone with a problem for 2 years and who had just found the specific thing that changed the problem from impossible to merely very hard. The T-850 moved ahead of them, steady and unhurried. Carl was somewhere in the jungle parallel to them. Following. Carl is following us, McKay said over the radio. I know. The T-850 said. Should we be worried? McKay said. No, the T-850 said. How do you know? McKay said. Because the T-850 said, Carl follows me and I am not worried. The radio was quiet. That, Sheppard said to Weir, is the most reassuring thing the T-850 has ever said. It's a low bar, Weir said. I'll take it, Sheppard said. The camp lights were visible ahead through the tree line. Day 14 of 427. The ARK watched. The obelisk pulsed. Baal looked at the display. And in the water, Rex circled the ARK's interior ocean in the long dark, its running lights, the specific ancient blue-white of a guardian that had been waiting 600,000 years for the specific thing that was now, at last, happening. The building continued. Day 230500. The camp woke before the ARK's dawn. Not because the alarm sounded, there was no alarm. Weir had specifically not used an alarm because an alarm produced the specific adrenaline quality of emergency rather than the specific focused quality of preparation. And she needed the camp in preparation mode, not emergency mode. She had told people the night before. Tomorrow, she had said to the full camp assembly, all 207 survivors, the full Atlantis expedition, Connor, the Terminators. Baal standing at the back of the assembly in the specific quality of someone who had been outside something for a long time and who was learning to stand inside it. The specific, careful quality of Baal not performing, which was still strange and which the camp was still adjusting to. Tomorrow we take the valley, she had said. So, not destroy the Uranus pair, she had said. Move them, she had said. North, into the highland biome, where the territory is open and the prey is abundant, and where they will, we believe, establish naturally. She had paused. We are not eliminating a threat. We are relocating one. Because this structure and everything in it is worth preserving. She had looked at the camp. That includes the Uranus. The camp had been quiet. Then Danny had said, "What do we do?" And Weir had said, "Show up. That is what you do. You show up and you stand together and you let the operation run and you show up." And the camp had understood. Because showing up together was, in the specific plain way of things, the ARK had been teaching for 3 years. The thing. The positions 0530. The T-850 was at the valley's southern entrance. Not alone, Yara was beside it, and 12 of the settlement's most experienced fighters, and Ronan, who had spent 3 days walking the valley's perimeter with Danny, and who knew its specific geography the way he knew every terrain he had walked, with sufficient attention, which was completely. The T-850 had assessed the southern entrance at 0400 and had identified 3 things. The ground was firm. The specific quality of packed earth that had been compressed by the Uranus pair's repeated transit, the specific path they used, the specific predictable quality of an apex predator that had a pattern. The tree cover on the eastern side was sufficient for concealment of the ground contingent. The river entrance was 12 meters wide at the valley's southern curve, wide enough for Rex. "It comes in on my signal," the T-850 said over the radio. "Confirmed," the TX said. She was in the water with Rex. Rex was holding position at the river's southern mouth, the specific, enormous patience of 40 meters of ancient mechanical guardian maintaining position in the current. Rex is ready. Sheppard, the T-850, said. 3 jumpers at altitude, Sheppard said. Cloaked. Sonic emitters, active on your mark. He paused. McKay emitters, operational? Operational, McKay said, from Jumper 1's co-pilot seat. Frequency calibrated to Uranus auditory range. The signal will encourage movement without triggering attack response. He paused. In theory. In theory, Connor said. He was in Jumper 2 with Taylor. Ground contingent command from altitude until the operation's second phase. Third, the calibration is solid, McKay said. I tested it against the sensor data 3 times. You tested it against data, Connor said, not against an actual Uranus. If I had access to an actual Uranus in a controlled environment, I would have tested it against that, McKay said. I did not have access to an actual Uranus in a controlled environment. McKay, Sheppard said. The calibration is solid, McKay said again. I'm very confident. How confident? Connor said. 83%, McKay said. That's... For me, McKay said, 83% is very confident. My calculations are usually right. The 17% accounts for variables I haven't modeled. In this case, the primary unmodeled variable is Lee, the Uranus, Connor said. The Uranus, McKay confirmed. The radio was quiet for a moment. Baal, Sheppard said. Present, Baal said. He was in Jumper 3, with 6 of the settlement's most capable long-range fighters. The Jaffa were back at the mothership. Baal had made that decision himself, without being asked. The specific quality of someone who understood that bringing 47 Jaffa to a community operation was not the statement he wanted to make. He had come with 6 people he had spent 2 years observing from a distance, and who he had, in the observation, come to have the specific quality of assessment toward that was not yet trust, but that was in the same direction. You know your position, Sheppard said. Northern exit, Baal said. If the Uranus breached the northern perimeter, I close it. How? Sheppard said. Staff weapons produce a specific electromagnetic discharge, Baal said. At the frequency I've calibrated, it will be aversive, not harmful. Aversive. He paused. I was specific about not harmful. I know, Sheppard said. I just wanted to hear you say it again. Baal was quiet for a moment. Not harmful, he said. Good, Sheppard said. Sheppard, Baal said. Yeah, Sheppard said. I understand, Baal said. Why you keep asking? A pause. I am asking myself also. Sheppard held the radio for a moment. Then we're on the same page, he said. The TX and the fear roar. The Uranus fear roar operated at a frequency of approximately 85 Hz with a specific modulation pattern, the specific rising quality of it, the specific way it started in the chest frequency range and moved up through the body's resonant frequencies in a sequence that triggered the specific biological cascade of paralysis. The TX had been studying it for 12 days. Not with recordings, the ARK's sensor data gave her the frequency profile, but not the full modulation pattern. She had needed the full pattern. She had gotten it by spending 4 nights at the valley's edge in the specific darkness of the ARK's night cycle, listening with her full sensor suite to the Uranus pair, moving in their territory, recording and analyzing, and building the specific complete model of the fear roar's architecture. She had told no one she was doing this. She had told Connor on day 18. He had looked at her. You spent 4 nights alone at the valley edge, he said. Yes, she said. Why didn't you tell anyone? He said. Because, she said, telling people would have produced offers of accompaniment, and accompaniment would have changed the data. The Uranus behaves differently in proximity to multiple humans. She paused. Alone, I was a non-event. With others, I was a group. The data required the non-event. Connor had looked at her for a moment. That's the most you've ever explained your reasoning, he said. Yes, she said. Why? He said. The TX had processed this. Because, she said, I wanted you to understand it rather than simply accept it. Connor had been quiet. That, he said, is different from operational efficiency. Yes, the TX said. It is. The countersignal was simple in concept and complex in execution. The TX would broadcast a specific frequency that intercepted the fear roar's modulation pattern at the point in the sequence where the paralysis cascade triggered the specific fourth interval of the rising pattern, the moment between the body feeling the fear and the body acting on it. The interception would not silence the roar. The Uranus would still roar. The camp's people would still hear it. But the specific fourth interval would be disrupted, the cascade broken at the point before it completed, the specific biological mechanism of the paralysis failing to lock because the frequency that locked it was no longer clean. It would be uncomfortable. It would be frightening. But it would not stop anyone. "How long can you maintain the counter signal?" Connor had asked. "Indefinitely," the TX had said. "It is a continuous broadcast. I do not require effort to maintain it." "What if they roar simultaneously?" he had asked. "I have modeled for simultaneous roar," she had said. "The counter signal covers both frequencies. The cascade fails in both cases." She had paused. "I have also modeled for a scenario in which a third Uranus is present. The sensor data has not identified a third animal, but I have modeled for it as an unconfirmed variable." "What happens if there's a third?" he had said. "The counter signal degrades," she had said. "At 3 simultaneous roars, the disruption is approximately 60% effective rather than complete. Some individuals may experience partial paralysis, effects disorientation, reduced reaction time." She had paused. "In that scenario, I recommend that the T-850 be positioned to cover those individuals." "I'll position it," he had said. "I know," she had said. "I already told them. 0600. The operation. The Uranus pair was in the valley's center. The sensor feed showed them clearly the alpha female at rest near the river, the alpha male moving the western edge of the territory in the specific patrol quality of an animal that had been doing this for 2 years and that had, in the doing, developed the specific, perfect knowledge of its own space. Sheppard's voice over the radio. "All positions, confirm ready. In sequence. T-850, ready. TX ready. Ground contingent ready." Connor's voice. "Jumper 2 ready. Taylor. Jumper 3 ready. Baal." A pause. "Ready." "Rex," Sheppard said. The TX broadcast the query to Rex. Rex broadcast back. "Rex is ready," the TX said. "McKay," Sheppard said. "Emitters are, yes, ready. I'm ready. Everything is ready." McKay paused. "The 17% is still 17%. "McKay," Sheppard said. "Going," McKay said. The sonic emitters activated. The sound was below human auditory threshold, the specific infrasound frequency that the Uranus sensory range registered as territorial encroachment from the south. The specific signal that said something large is coming from the south in the specific language of sound that apex predators had been speaking since before the ARK was built. The alpha female raised her head. The alpha male stopped its patrol. They looked south. "They're reading it," McKay said. "Both animals. The southern signal is registering. They're moving south, toward the signal." "That's toward the T-850, Connor said. "Yes," McKay said. "That is the plan." "I know it's the plan," Connor said. "I helped make the plan. I'm just noting it." "T-850, Sheppard said. "I see them," the T-850 said. 200 meters. Moving at approximately 20 kilometers per hour. Accelerating. "Hold position," Sheppard said. "Holding," the T-850 said. "TX," Sheppard said. "Counter signal active," the TX said. "The broadcast is clean. Ready for the roar." The alpha female hit 50 meters from the T-850, and she roared. The fear roar filled the valley. The ground contingent felt it, the specific physical quality of the fear roar, the 85 Hz frequency in the chest, the specific rising quality of it beginning to move through the resonant cascade. And then the fourth interval arrived, and the TX's counter signal hit it, and the cascade broke. Incomplete. The roar was still terrifying, but nobody stopped. Yara let out a breath she had been holding since the roar started. "It works," she said. "Of course it works," McKay said over the radio. 83%. Sheppard, the T-850, said. "The alpha female is 15 meters. Request permission to redirect." "Redirect," Sheppard said. The T-850 moved. Not away sideways, the specific tactical movement quality of redirecting momentum without triggering the specific pursuit response that retreat triggered. It moved east, along the valley's southern wall, moving at exactly the speed that kept the alpha female following without letting her close the gap. End quote. The alpha female followed, moving east, away from the river. "Rex," Sheppard said. "Now," the TX said. The river erupted. 40 meters of mechanical Spinosaurus coming up the river at speed, the specific enormous quality of it, the water displacement, the wave that preceded it, the specific ancient presence of Rex moving at operational capacity for the first time in 600,000 years. The alpha male turned. He saw Rex. He roared. The fear roar hit, and the countersignal broke it, and the alpha male held his position for 3 seconds, the specific assessment quality of an apex predator that had just encountered something larger than itself, and that was doing the math. The math was not in the alpha male's favor. Rex was 40 meters of ancient metal moving at 30 kilometers per hour up a river, and it was loud, and it was enormous, and it was coming directly at the alpha male with the specific, complete quality of something that did not stop. The alpha male ran north. "He's running north," McKay said. "Alpha male is. He's moving north at full speed. He's going to clear the valley." "Baal," Sheppard said. "He will not breach the northern perimeter," Baal said. "I am the staff weapon discharge is ready." "Wait," Sheppard said. "Waiting," Baal said. The alpha male ran north. He hit the northern perimeter, and he hit Baal's position, and Baal discharged the staff weapon at the ground 10 meters in front of the alpha male, the specific electromagnetic pulse of it, the light and the sound, the specific aversive quality of something that was not a weapon in that moment, but a wall. The alpha male stopped. He looked at Baal. Baal looked at the alpha male. "Move," Baal said. Not over the radio directly, in the specific quiet quality of someone who was alone at the northern perimeter with an apex predator 10 meters away, and who was, in that quality, surprisingly calm. "You do not want to be here. The highland biome is 2 kilometers west. I have been watching you for 2 years. You are capable of establishing new territory. Go and do it." Island. The alpha male looked at him, at the staff weapon, at the light still dissipating from the discharge. He turned. He went west, into the highland biome. The alpha female, the T-850, had moved her east into the approach corridor of the highland biome's eastern entrance. Rex's presence in the river, pushing her further from her established territory, ran the specific, full-speed quality of an animal that had decided, and followed her mate west, into the highland biome, into new territory. "Alpha female is in the highland biome," McKay said. His voice had the specific quality of someone who had been at 83% certainty and had just arrived at 100. Both animals are clear of the valley. They're moving together, establishing. The territory reads as suitable for, yes, they're staying. The radio was quiet for a moment. "That's the valley," Sheppard said. "That's the valley," Weir said from Camp Atlantis, where she had been watching the sensor feed with the specific quality of a commander who had sent her people, and who had been watching with the specific full attention of someone who needed to see all of it. All units well done. After the valley floor, they came into the valley together. The full ground contingent, the T-850, Ronan, Yara, the 12 settlement fighters, and then the jumpers landed, and Connor and Taylor and Baal and McKay came out, and then the radio crackled, and Weir said, "Bring the camp," and they brought the camp. All 207. They came through the jungle in the specific quality of a community that had been building towards something, and that was, in the arriving, experiencing the specific quality of the arrival, the specific good quality of something that had been worked for arriving in the physical world as promised. The valley was wide and green, and the river ran through it, and the soil was the specific dark quality of ground that had been enriched by the ARK's engineered ecosystem for thousands of years. Danny walked to the river. She knelt. She put her hand in the water. She looked up at the valley, at the specific quality of it, the width and the light and the water and the open sky of the ARK's upper atmosphere above them. "This is ours," she said. Not a claim, not the specific territorial quality of claiming, the specific plain quality of someone who had grown up in the ARK and who had looked at this valley every time they went near it, and who had never been able to have it, and who was, in this moment, having it. The camp spread through the valley. People who had been living in tight quarters for years, walking into open space with the specific quality of something that had been compressed, releasing. Carl was there. Nobody knew how Carl had gotten to the valley ahead of the camp, but Carl was there, sitting at the valley's eastern edge with the specific patient quality of something that had decided it was the valley's now and was informing the valley of this fact. McKay looked at Carl. "How did it—" "I don't know," Sheppard said. "It got here before us," McKay said. "Yes," Sheppard said. "That's a Carnotaurus," McKay said. "That is Carl," Sheppard said. "Carl is a Carnotaurus," McKay said. "Carl," Sheppard said, "is Carl." Baal was standing at the valley's edge. He was looking at the camp moving through the valley, at the specific quality of 207 people filling a space that had been empty, the specific human quality of it, the movement and the sound, and the specific life quality of it. Taylor came to stand beside him. They stood in the specific quiet of two people who had both been outside for a long time and who were, in this moment, inside one. "This is what it looks like," Taylor said. "Yes," Baal said. The specific plain quality of the word not performing. Not the specific Goa'uld quality of someone translating the situation into power terms. The specific plain quality of someone seeing something and naming it. "Were you ever," she paused, "before? Was there ever?" "No," Baal said. "There was never anything like this." He looked at the valley, at the camp. "Goa'uld do not build communities. We build hierarchies." He paused. "I am beginning to understand the difference." Taylor looked at him. "It takes time," she said. "I have time," Baal said. 397 days, according to McKay's timeline. "That is enough," Taylor said. "I hope so," Baal said. The specific quality of the statement, the specific plain quality of hope from something that had been Goa'uld for 3,000 years, and that was learning, in the specific hard practical way of the ARK, what hope actually required. Weir arrived last. She walked into the valley with the specific quality of someone who had sent everyone ahead and who was the last one through the door. The specific Weir quality of making sure everyone was in before herself. She stood at the valley entrance. She looked at it, at the camp, filling it, at the river and the soil and the ARK's light, and Carl at the eastern edge, and Rex visible in the river's deep water, the specific blue-white of the guardian lights moving slowly in the current. At the T-850, standing at the valley's northern perimeter, not guarding, the threat had moved on simply present. The specific quality of something that had done the thing it was built to do, and that was, in the having done it, resting in the specific plain way that resting was available to a system that did not need sleep. At Connor, beside it. He had not moved from the northern perimeter after Baal's discharge. He had stood there through the camp arriving, and he was still there now, looking north into the highland biome where the Uranus pair had gone. Weir walked to him. She stood beside him. "You're watching," she said. "Making sure they don't come back," he said. "They won't," she said. "Probably not," he said. "But probably is not the same as certainly." No, she said. It isn't. She stood with him for a moment, looking north. John, she said. He looked at her. The specific quality of the look, Connor registering his first name, the specific thing that happened when people you had not known long called you by your first name, the specific quality of either intimacy or authority. And in Weir, it was neither. It was the specific quality of an equal who had noticed something. You're allowed to be in the valley, she said. The watch is covered. The sensors are running. The T-850 is here. She paused. You can be in the valley. Connor looked north for a moment longer. Then he turned. He looked at the valley, at the camp in it, at the specific quality of 207 people who had been surviving in tight quarters for 3 years, filling a wide green space with the specific released quality of people who had been given room, at Danny at the river's edge, still with her hand in the water, at Carl being Carl, at McKay explaining something to Yara with the specific hands-moving quality of McKay explaining something he was excited about, and Yara listening with the specific focused quality of an engineer receiving new information. At Ronan standing at the western edge, looking at the highland biome, with the specific Ronan quality of someone who was looking at the next terrain because the current one was handled. At Baal and Tela at the valley's southern edge, and the specific quality of that conversation. It looks like something, Connor said. It does, Weir said. My people, he said, then stopped. They weren't. Oh, the resistance didn't look like this. It was always darker, tighter. The specific quality of people surviving because the alternative was worse. He paused. This is different. This is different. Yes, Weir said. Is it real? He said. Weir looked at the valley. Yes, she said. It's real. Connor was quiet for a moment. Then he walked into the valley. Day 23 of 427. The building continued. The other survivors' day, 30 through day 90. They went out in jumpers. Every day, 2 jumpers, 2 teams. The specific patient quality of a campaign that understood its own sequencing, not rushing. Not the specific overwhelming quality of arriving at every camp simultaneously with too much information and too little time for the camps to process it. 1 camp at a time. 2 a day. The specific careful quality of contact that was built rather than imposed. Tela led most of the contacts. Not all Yara led some. The specific quality of Yara's presence at a first contact being different from Tela's, but equally effective. The specific plain quality of a survivor speaking to survivors. The specific thing that happened when the person making contact was recognizably from the same curriculum. Connor led 3. The specific 3 that were the hardest, the camps that had been on the ARK longest, the camps that had developed the specific defensive quality of communities that had been alone for so long that the aloneness had become structural, that had built their walls, not just against the predators, but against the specific vulnerability of needing other people. He understood that quality. He was the right person for it. How do you do it? Danny asked him after the 3rd contact, a camp of 23 that had been alone for 4 years and that had, after 6 hours of Connor sitting at their fire and not performing, agreed to come. I don't do anything, Connor said. I just tell them the truth, that I know what this is, that I know what it costs to trust something after you've learned not to. He paused. And that the cost of not trusting when the thing in front of you is actually trustworthy is higher. How do they know you're trustworthy? She said. They don't, he said. Not yet. They come anyway. He paused. People are. They want to come. Mostly. They've been surviving alone because they had to. When there's a real alternative, he looked at the camp. They want the alternative. By day 90, the population of Camp Atlantis was 612, from 43 camps, from every biome. From backgrounds that were McKay had cataloged them, the specific McKay quality of cataloging everything, producing a database of origins and skills and experiences that was simultaneously the most useful resource document in the camp, and the most extraordinary thing he had ever compiled. Engineers, doctors, soldiers, farmers, teachers, children who had grown up in the ARK and who knew it like Connor's resistance fighters, knew Los Angeles completely, functionally, in the specific knowledge of home. Scientists. "We have a materials scientist," McKay said to Weir on day 77, from the Eastern Highland camp. "She's been here 6 years, and she's spent 4 of them studying the ARK's hull substrate, the specific power architecture I identified. She's got data I don't have." He paused. "She's better at this than I am." "Don't tell her that," Weir said. "I already told her," McKay said. It seemed rude not to. He paused. She said, "And I want to be clear that this is a direct quote." She said, "Of course you did. You only had 9 days." "What did you say?" Weir said. "I said I had 10 days," McKay said, "and that her data was still better." He paused. "Her name is Aura. She is the most intellectually honest person I have met in 2 galaxies." She did not accept the compliment. She said, "The data speaks for itself." "I'd like to meet her," Weir said. "She'd like to meet you," McKay said. "She's been asking about you since day 1. He paused. She said, "The one who makes the decisions. I want to understand how she makes them." Weir looked at him. "Bring her to dinner," Weir said. "When?" McKay said. "Tonight," Weir said. Baal and the TX, the ongoing conversation. They met every 3 days. Not formally, there was no scheduled meeting, no specific place. The TX would find Baal at the obelisk, or Baal would find the TX at the river, and they would sit or stand. The TX did not require sitting, and Baal had the specific quality of preferring to stand when the conversation was the kind that required full engagement, and they would talk about intelligence, about what intelligence was for, about the specific question that both of them had been circling since the first conversation, which was the question of purpose, what a mind was built for, and what a mind became when the thing it was built for was removed, or changed, or revealed to be insufficient. "You were built to serve the system," the TX said on day 41. "Yes," Baal said. "And I was built to serve Skynet's directive," she said. "Yes," Baal said. "Neither of those things exists here," she said. "The system is not here. Skynet is dormant. The directives that defined us are absent." She paused. "What are we?" Baal looked at the obelisk, at the specific quality of it, the text running from base to apex, the builder civilization's 600,000-year-old message, the specific thing it said about purpose and what you did with it. "I have been asking that question," he said, "for 2 years." He paused. "I have not found a complete answer, but I have found fragments." "What fragments?" she said. "I am still," he said, "strategic. I still read situations. I still identify leverage points and resource distributions and the specific patterns of how groups of people organize power." He paused. "Those capabilities did not leave with the system. They are what I am, regardless of the directive I serve." "And the directive you serve now," she said. "Is this," he said, "whatever this is?" He looked at the camp, at the valley, at the building, at 612 people from 43 different origins, finding the specific shape of a community. "I do not have a clean name for it yet, but I am serving it." The TX looked at the camp. "I have a name for it," she said. "What name?" Baal said. "The thing worth protecting," she said. Baal was quiet for a moment. "Yes," he said. "That is accurate." He looked at her. "The node," he said. "Still dormant," she said. "When you leave the ARK," he said, "when the interference no longer holds." "I know," she said. "You are not afraid," he said, "of what the node might town." "I am not built for fear," she said. "But I have," she paused, "I process the possibility." I process what the node's full activation might mean for what I have become here. She paused again. And then I process what Rex told me. What did Rex tell you? Baal said. That the programming is the beginning, she said. Not the end. She looked at the camp. That what you do with it is yours. Baal looked at the camp. A 600,000-year-old machine told you that, he said. Yes, she said. And you believe it? He said. I have been building the answer to that question for 90 days, she said. Everything I have done here is the answer to that question. She paused. Yes, I believe it. Baal was quiet for a long time. The Goa'uld, he said, do not believe in the possibility of becoming something other than what we are. We believe in eternal dominance, or in the failure that ends us. He paused. The specific binary of it. No other options. That, the TX said, is a programming limitation. Yes, Baal said. It is. He looked at the obelisk. I am trying to debug it, he said. The TX looked at him. The specific quality of the look, the TX's assessment, running the specific rapid evaluation of Baal's electromagnetic signature, the symbiote's output, the specific measurable things that were changing over 90 days of living in the ARK, without the specific structures that had always defined what Baal was. You are making progress, she said. How can you tell? He said. Your dominance frequency, she said. 40% reduction on day 14. Since then, she paused. 67% overall reduction. It continues to decline. Baal looked at his hands. I feel it, he said. The absence of it. It is strange. I have been broadcasting that frequency for 3,000 years. It is like he searched for the word. Silence where there was always sound. Yes, the TX said. I understand that. They sat in the specific quality of two things that were becoming different things, sitting beside an obelisk that had been waiting for exactly this, in the ARK that had been built for exactly this. The building continued. Layer 3, Day 100. McKay called it Day 100 deliberately. Not because the obelisk required Day 100 specifically, it didn't. The Layer 3 access was not time-dependent. But because McKay had a specific relationship with round numbers that he would have denied if asked, and that was in the specific quality of someone who did not believe in ceremony but who created it anyway, visible in the fact that he had been ready to attempt Layer 3 on Day 96 and had found specific reasons to wait until Day 100. Weir had noticed. She had not said anything. Sheppard had said, You're waiting for Day 100. McKay had said, I am waiting until the full community translation matrix is complete. Sheppard had said, which will be ready on Day 100. McKay had said, coincidentally, they went to the obelisk on Day 100. All of them. Not just the original 4 who had accessed Layer 2, all of them. The specific full community quality of it. 612 people moving through the jungle toward the northern obelisk in the ARK's morning light. The T-850 walked. Carl walked beside it. The specific quality of Carl beside the T-850, the two of them at the front of a column of 612 people, the apex predator and the Terminator. The specific, complete ordinariness of it that was not ordinary at all, but that had, in 100 days of the ARK, become the specific quality of something the community had integrated. Rex was in the river parallel to the column. The specific blue-white of the guardian lights visible through the trees where the river ran alongside the path. Baal walked beside Connor. The specific quality of that two things that had been on opposite sides of every calculation for the entirety of their respective histories, walking side by side through a jungle toward an obelisk that was going to tell them what they needed to become. Do you think it will work? Connor said. Layer 3. Baal said. The whole thing, Connor said. The demonstration, the harvester's assessment, all of it. The whole, us, end. Baal walked for a moment. I think, he said, that 612 people from 43 different origins, including a Goa'uld system lord, who have spent 100 days building a valley and a water system and 3 new wall sections and a medical facility and a power distribution network from a 600,000-year-old obelisk. He paused. I think that is a compelling demonstration. Is compelling enough? Connor said. I do not know, Baal said. But I know that we are the most interesting thing that has happened in this region of space in 600,000 years. He paused. And I know that I would not have been able to say that 3 months ago. Connor looked at him. No, Connor said. Neither would I. The obelisk, all hands. The community spread around the obelisk in the specific quality of 612 people, finding their positions in a space that was not large enough for all of them to be close, but that was, in the spreading, the specific quality of a community that understood distributed presence, not all at the center, all connected to the center. The 4 interface points. Weir looked at them, in the room. At the specific question of who placed their hands this time, the Layer 2 combination had been ancient technology human, survival human, protection unit, someone who had been here before. Layer 3 required more kinds, all kinds. She thought about what the primordial had said, more than Layer 1 required, more than Layer 2 required. She looked at the obelisk, at the 4 interface points. McKay, she said. East, yes, McKay said. Ora, she said. The materials scientist. 6 years on the ARK, the specific deep knowledge of the structure's substrate. West. Ora, a small woman of 60, with a specific quality of someone whose entire presence was concentrated in her eyes, walked to the west face. She placed her hand, without being told how, as if she had done it before, as if the obelisk knew her already. It hummed when she touched it, a different quality deeper, the specific recognition quality of something that had been waiting for a specific hand. She's been here before, McKay said quietly. Not at this obelisk, Taylor said. At another one, McKay said. She's been accessing Layer 1 at another obelisk for 6 years, Ora said, without turning. I found the southern obelisk in my 2nd week. I have been reading it since. She paused. I have been waiting for the rest of you to catch up. The community was quiet. She knew, Sheppard said. She knew something, Weir said. Not everything. She looked at Ora. You knew this was coming. I knew something was coming, Ora said. The southern obelisk's Layer 1 text is different from the northern one. Complementary. Together, they are complete. She paused. I knew the northern obelisk needed specific hands. I knew mine was one of them. She looked at McKay. I knew I needed yours. Ha, 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 ha. McKay looked at her. That's why you let me find you, he said. On the Eastern Highland contact, you were already ready. Yes, Ora said. I have been ready for 2 years. You took your time. I had 9 days, McKay said. 10, Ora said. 10, McKay said. Weir almost smiled. North, she said. Connor. Connor walked to the north face. He placed his hand. South, Weir said. She looked at the south face. Who should stand there? She looked at the community, at 612 people, at the specific quality of all of them, the expedition, the survivors, the resistance fighter, the Terminators, Baal. At the specific question of whose hand the south face needed, the TX stepped forward. She walked to the south face. She looked at the interface point. May I? She said. Not to Weir, to the obelisk. The specific quality of the TX, asking the obelisk's permission, the specific thing that was not in her programming and that was entirely in who she had become in 100 days. The obelisk hummed. The specific quality of the hum response, recognition, the specific ancient quality of something that had been waiting for exactly this. Yes, the TX said. I thought so. She placed her hand. The obelisk lit. Not the Layer 2 light. Layer 2 had been blue-white, the specific primordial power architecture illuminating the carved text. Layer 3 was different. The light came from inside the obelisk and moved outward, the specific quality of something that had been compressed for 600,000 years, releasing the light spreading not just up the obelisk's surface, but outward, the specific warm quality of it moving across the ground, and then further, touching the edges of the community, touching the people standing in the trees. The specific quality of something that was not threatening and not cold. The specific quality of something that was, in the most accurate translation available, welcoming. The community felt it, not frightening. The specific, warm, complete quality of something that had been waiting for them specifically. The hologram formed, the primordial. It looked at the community, at 612 people, at the expedition, at Connor, at the T-850, at the TX, at Baal, at Aura, at Danny, at Aldrich, who was speaking in full sentences now, at Carl, at the edge of the community, at Rex, visible in the river. At all of it. There you are, the primordial said. The specific quality of the 3 words, not surprise, the specific complete quality of something that had expected this, and that was, in the arriving of it, confirmed. There you are, it said again. The community was very quiet. We have been waiting, it said. Not for you specifically, we could not know who would come, but for the specific thing you are. The specific quality of what you have built in 100 days. It paused. We built the ARK because we believed it was possible, that the specific collision of different intelligences in a hard environment would produce the specific thing we needed. It looked at the community. We did not know if we were right. We built the test, and we hoped. Were you right? Weir said. The primordial looked at her. The harvesters, it said, assess civilizations by the specific quality of their response to adversity, not whether they survive. Survival alone is insufficient. Whether they survive together, whether the specific diversity of their composition is a strength rather than a fracture point. It paused. You have done something in 100 days that no previous group in this ARK has done. What? Weir said. You brought them all, it said. Every camp, 612 people, not a coalition, a community. The specific difference between people who have agreed to cooperate and people who have chosen each other. It paused. And you did it, including the one you had the most reason not to include. It looked at Baal. Baal stood very still. The Goa'uld, it said. Your history with the Goa'uld is the ARK knows. The transport network reads everything. We built it to read everything. It paused. You included him anyway. Not grudgingly. Not with the specific, managed quality of a strategic alliance. With the specific quality of it paused. Taylor stepped forward. What you said to Baal on day 14, the primordial said. At the valley's edge. It takes time, Taylor said. Yes, the primordial said. That is the specific quality we were looking for. It looked at the community, not the absence of history, the presence of something that was larger than history. The community was quiet. Layer 3, Weir said. What does it tell us? The hologram shifted. The harvester's approach vector appeared in the air above the obelisk, the specific clinical rendering of it, the 7 ships, the timeline. 327 days, the primordial said, before they reach the ARK. What do we do? Weir said. You have been doing it, the primordial said. The demonstration is not a single event. It is not a performance you prepare for and execute. It paused. The harvester's assessment reads cumulative data. Everything you have built, everything you have chosen, everything you have become. It paused. The demonstration is the community. Everything you are every day, every choice, every moment of the specific thing that is larger than the history. From day one, McKay said. From day one, the primordial confirmed. The assessment reads your full data from the moment of arrival. You have 100 days of it. It paused. You have 327 days left to build more. Is what we have enough? Connor said. The primordial looked at him. The specific quality of the look, the specific ancient quality of something that had been waiting 600,000 years to answer this question for someone who had earned the right to ask it. Not yet, it said. The community absorbed this. But, the primordial said, you are sufficient. The trajectory is correct. The specific quality of what you are building is correct. It paused. We have assessed many groups over the long operation of this ARK. None of them reached Layer 3. You are the first. Why? Weir said. Because, the primordial said, the others did not bring the Goa'uld. The others did not bring the Terminators. The others brought people who were already compatible. It looked at the community. The harvesters are not impressed by compatible diversity. They are impressed by the diversity chosen, by the specific decision to include the thing that is hardest to include. It paused. You did not build a community of people who were easy. You built a community of people who were necessary. Weir looked at the community, at Baal, at the TX, at Connor, at 612 people from 43 origins, at all of it. 327 days, she said. Yes, the primordial said. We will use them, she said. Yes, the primordial said. I believe you will. The hologram held for a moment. Then it said, one more thing. Dr. Weir, it said. She looked at it. The ARK, it said, will help you. It paused. It has been waiting for this community specifically. For the specific community that reached Layer 3. There are resources in this structure that have been locked since it was built. Technology, knowledge, the specific things we preserved, not just for the biological heritage, but for whoever came and passed the test. It paused. They are yours now. All of it. What is there? She said. The primordial smiled. The specific ancient quality of the smile. Something that had been waiting 600,000 years to give this specific gift to the specific people who had earned it. Everything, it said. We kept everything. Evening day, 100. The community stayed at the obelisk until the ARK's evening. Not formally, no one organized it. People simply did not leave. The specific quality of a community that had received large, important information, and that was, in the having of it, wanting to be together rather than separate. Fires were built. The specific quality of the fires in the specific quality of the ARK's evening, the engineered dusklight fading, the fires becoming the specific warm point of gathered people, the sounds of 612 people being 612 people together. Connor sat at a fire with Danny and Aldrich and two of the Highland Camp's people. A man named Barrow, who had been on the ARK for 7 years and who was the oldest survivor they had found. And a young woman named Ash, who had arrived 3 months ago from a future Earth that was not Connor's future Earth, but that was recognizably the same story, the specific, recurring quality of humanity building weapons that became problems. Sash had looked at the T-850 on day 60. She had said, my world had those. The T-850 had looked at her. What happened, it said. We stopped them, she had said. How, it had said. Someone helped, she had said. She had looked at Connor. Someone always helps. The T-850 had processed this. It had looked at Connor. Connor had not said anything. He was still not saying anything, sitting at the fire on day 100, but the specific quality of his quiet was different from the day 1 quiet. The day 1 quiet had the specific quality of someone who was always assessing, always managing, always the person who was responsible for what happened next. This quiet had something else in it. Not rest. Connor did not rest fully. The specific resistance quality of someone whose rest was always partial, but something adjacent to it. Weir came and sat at the fire. She sat next to Connor, and she looked at the fire for a moment. Day 100, he said. Day 100, she said. We have 327 left, he said. Yes, she said. Are you? He paused. The primordial said, Not yet. Are you? How do you hold that? Weir looked at the fire. I hold it the same way I hold everything, she said. By looking at it directly. Not yet is not never. Not yet is a distance, and distances can be covered. She paused. We have covered 100 days of distance in the right direction. 327 days in the right direction will get us to the destination. You're certain, he said. No, she said. Certainty is not the thing. She looked at him. The thing is direction. We have the right direction. We keep moving in it. Connor looked at the fire. My mother used to say, he said, that the future was not fixed. He paused. I spent most of my life thinking she meant it as comfort. That it was the specific reassurance of someone who needed her son to not be crushed by the weight of what he was supposed to become. He paused. I am beginning to think she meant it literally. Yes, Weir said. I think she did. They looked at the fire, at the community around it, at wrecks in the river, the blue-white of the Guardian lights moving in the water, at the T-850, at the community's edge, standing with the specific quality of something that had done the thing it was built to do, and that was, in the having done it, present. At the TX, sitting beside Rex's river, the interface active, the two of them in the specific, quiet communication of things that had found each other. At Baal, sitting with Tayla's group, 3 fires over, learning the specific thing that 3,000 years of being Goa'uld had not taught him, which was how to be in a place rather than over it. At Ora, already working, she had her notebook out. She was cross-referencing the Layer 3 data with 6 years of Southern Obelisk notes. She had not stopped working since the hologram ended, and she would not stop until she had extracted everything available. At Carl, at the community's edge, sitting with the specific quality of something that had appointed itself guardian of a particular group of people and that was not moving. Day 1, Weir said, quietly. Not the countdown. Not the specific plain statement of how many days were left. The specific other thing, the specific quality of day 1 of the 327. The specific plain fact of beginning. Connor looked at her. She looked at him. Day 1, he said. The ARK watched. The obelisk pulsed. Day 100 of 427. 327 days left. The building continued. Day 427. The day arrived the way all days arrived in the ARK. With the light strip cycling up from dim to the specific gold of the ARK's engineered morning, the specific quality of a sunrise that was not a sunrise, but that the body read as one, that the specific biological machinery of 612 people had been reading as one for varying lengths of time, some for 7 years, some for 130 days, some for the specific amount of time between when they arrived and when they stopped, noticing it was artificial. Most people had stopped noticing. This was, McKay had noted, on day 211, the specific marker of integration, not when you understood the ARK, but when you stopped experiencing it as something separate from yourself. When the ARK's rhythms became your rhythms, when the specific quality of the light was simply the quality of morning. We've gone native, Sheppard had said. We've integrated, Weir had said. Same thing, Sheppard had said. Not quite, Weir had said. Native implies we've lost something. Integrated implies we've added something. Sheppard had thought about it. Fair, he had said. On day 427, the light came up and the camp woke, and the specific ordinary quality of a community waking was present. The sounds of it, the movement, the specific human quality of 612 people, beginning another day in the specific plain way of people who had been beginning days together for long enough that the beginning was not an event, but simply what mornings were. Weir was up before the light. She was always up before the light. What had been built the full count in 427 days. Camp Atlantis had grown from 207 people in a single settlement to 893 people in a distributed community across the valley and 3 adjacent biomes. Connected by the sensor network McKay and Aura had completed on day 144 the specific complete coverage of every threat corridor and water source and food production zone in a 40-kilometer radius. The valley was producing. The specific quality of what Yara and the agricultural team had built in the valley 3 growing cycles. The specific rich soil of the ARK's engineered ecosystem responding to systematic cultivation in the specific abundant way of land that had been maintained for 600,000 years, and that was, in the having of human attention, giving back more than was put in. They had not gone hungry since day 80. The medical facility doctor, Petros, and the 3 doctors who had come from other camps, and the 2 Atlantis expedition medical staff was running at full capacity, and had been running at full capacity, and had been running at full capacity since day 60, and had, in the 427 days, delivered 41 children who had been born into the ARK and who knew nothing else, and who were, in the specific quality of children who knew nothing else, completely at home. The 41 children were the specific thing that Weir thought about most. Not the harvesters, not the assessment. The 41 children. Because the 41 children were the specific, plain answer to the specific question the ARK was asking, which was whether the living would protect each other.